Hello, everyone, and welcome to Outside Food and Drink. Very happy that we're finally getting to do this one, The Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah.
So, kind of explain what we're doing here. We're not doing any single Haunting of Hill House. We're kind of looking at, we're looking at The Haunting of Hill House, the novel, as the basis of a lot of modern horror. And the various adaptations that it's spun off, and really just The Haunting of Hill House as a building, a crucial foundational block of modern horror, which I think sometimes it's been nearly 70 years since the book came out, and I think it's sometimes you go back and modern audiences read an older book like that, they're like, I don't see what the big deal is. Well, yes, you don't, because you now have the benefit of 70 years of the tropes that this book established.
Yeah.
But I think that's what we kind of want to do is like, let's step back, let's look at this briefly look at the book and the adaptations, and then kind of like see where it did what, kind of see where it was so important. If that makes sense.
I think it makes sense to do it that way. I mean, there's 2 movies. There's also a mini-series.
And I think its influence goes even into places that maybe not everybody's considered,
Or not everybody sees. I mean, I guess it depends on if you watch a movie just to watch it, or if you see, like, where the flair for it came from.
I think if you see enough movies or watch some movies enough times, there's things you just, once somebody points them out, like, oh, geez, how did I miss that? You just start seeing things that, it's not that they weren't there or whatever, but it's that now that you're familiar with the story and the character beats and all that, you're seeing the other things going on.
And not only that, but there's some of the things in this movie that you see it and you're like, oh, and then you watch a newer movie that you've seen 100 times and you're like, oh, I wonder if that's where that influence came from.
Right, exactly.
Not only for characters, but for some of the design stuff.
Some of the design, and some of the little, there's some tropes in here, some tropes which Jackson herself, Shirley Jackson, took from older literature and kind of remolded, and they kind of hold to this day. So, and let's go ahead and talk about it. I'm going to do a quick overview of the book, and then we'll start getting into the adaptations, and then we'll kind of branch out the discussion from there.
Yeah, I had to read the book. Well, I didn't read it.
She did. Well,
I listened to it.
Yeah,
it was good.
It was, yeah. Okay, so here we go. So Shirley Jackson's 1959 novel. It's structurally a deceptively straightforward haunted house story. It's a gothic story, as great haunted house stories are, with a sort of mid-century New England accent. There's a lot it's very mid-century bourgeois New England, like the banter and stuff.
Yes.
So it's very much of its time and place. But it tells the story of Eleanor Vance, who's a young woman who, until recently, had been the primary the primary caretaker for her dying and demanding mother. And she is inspired to visit Hill House as part of an investigation to the supernatural by Dr. John Montague, who's a paranormal investigator. And Eleanor and the doctor are joined at Hill House by a woman named Theodora, who we never learn a whole lot about as far as backstory goes. Just like, this is Theodora. And then Luke Sanderson, who is the nephew of the current owner of Hill House. Hill House itself has a dark and muddy history. It was built in the previous century by a man named Hugh Crane for his first wife, who died in a carriage accident on the road to Hill House, having never set eyes on Hill House itself. And Hill House has seen the tragedy since then of several deaths, rumored suicides, and the falling out of some of the Hugh Crane's daughters, which led to other tragedies. The people of the nearby town will not go near Hill House. Eleanor is welcomed to Hill House by the caretaker, a gruff man named Mr. Dudley, and his wife, Mrs. Dudley, who maintains, she kind of keeps up the inside of Hill House, keeps it clean, and serves as a sort of dour chorus throughout the novel. She's always kind of there dampening the mood and being like, oh, like the woo, something's coming,
She like...
By day, the Dudleys themselves will not even stay at Hill House after dark. They're like, he does what he's got to do. She tells them, I make breakfast. I clear off breakfast at 10. I serve lunch at 1. Then I clear off and I serve dinner at 6. And I don't clear off dinner. I do that the next day because I got to get out of here before it gets dark. But by day, Eleanor falls in love with Hill House.
Yes, she
does.
It's
a beautiful, charming country manor, but the nights are a little different. In the night in the dark, as Mrs. Dudley frequently reminds Hill House guests, and the bumps in the night at Hill House grew louder, interpersonal tensions rise and feed into Eleanor's growing inner turmoil. And Dr. Montague, realizing that he may have misjudged Eleanor's suitability for his experiment, asks her to leave. Eleanor, who now seems to feel herself as part of Hill House, leaves but drives her car into a tree and, we assume, her death. Much like the first Mrs. Crane.
Yes.
Shirley Jackson was supposedly inspired to write Hill House after reading about some paranormal investigators, and there is a definite cheekiness in the first half of the book, especially through Theo and Luke. You tell Eleanor's trying to kind of join in, but she's kind of awkward, But still, it was at the time a modern take on the idea of the haunted house. It was leaning heavily into psychology and the kind of attempt to make ghost hunting respectable by appealing to science, like see the preternatural. They have a discussion about the preternatural versus supernatural. The Dr. Montague, who acts as kind of mid-century Carnacki the ghost hunter, uses. It continues to be esteemed in literary and horror circles, and its influence can be seen everywhere, not the least, of course, in the multiple adaptations it's undergone. The ones that we'll be discussing are there's been plays and audio, or not audiobooks, but plays and radio shows. But we are going to be specifically discussing the most well-known adaptations, which is the 1963 Robert Wise film, the 1999 Jan de Bont film, and the 2018 Mike Flanagan miniseries. Robert Wise makes what is essentially a straight adaptation of the novel.
Yes, he does. It was really good.
It was good. I personally, the casting of Russ Tamblyn as Luke Sanderson is, I think, my favorite casting decision across every adaptation, even including the casting of Russ Tamblyn as Dr. Montague in the 2018 series. I like Russ Tamblyn as Luke Sanderson was about perfect casting. I don't know if a part's ever been made for a person quite like that. But then Jan de Bont, he uses the he's the basic skeleton of the story, but he basically uses it to hang his visual effects experimentation on. There's a lot of very early CGI.
Yes.
And it's it does not look great now. And even at the time, I remember that movie being well received initially, and then people started wait a minute now. This is not working.
I love the fireplace thing,
though. The fireplace was off, so we'll get into it. But what's interesting is the Jan de Bont version, the 99 movie, the cast is stacked. If you look at it from the perspective of these actors and actresses in 1999, you had Owen Wilson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Lily Taylor, she was big then, and you had Liam Neeson. Basically, it was before Taken, but he was still pretty close to the top of his game then.
Yeah.
It is, and Bruce Dern, just randomly as Mr. Dudley. It was a stacked cast.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the Flanagan adaptation, which I think is the way a lot of newer fans of Hill House came to know about
Hill House.
Yeah. And the Flanagan miniseries on Netflix was a 10-episode miniseries, where he we'll get into specifics, but he sort of takes, it's a mishmash, it's a grab bag of elements from the original story, and he kind of sets it on the kind of basic general idea of telling the backstory that we get of the Crane family. He takes bits and pieces of that, and it's, I have an opinion about it. Now I want to get out in front of this and say, I love Mike Flanagan's adaptation of The Haunting of Hill House. I love it.
I do too. I thought it was great. I thought it was great in many ways, but I also thought it could be onto its own.
Right. So I think, and I think I believed this at the time. I believed it upon subsequent watchings. There's a run of 3 episodes It's the twin thing, Bent Lady, and Two Storms. There's 3 episodes back to back. That for my money is probably 3 of the best episodes of television that Netflix has ever put out. Now I think there's other, season 1 of Dexter is better, stuff like that. But for this type of thing, it's an outstanding run of episodes. So my criticism isn't with the series per se. It has problems. I think they're very Flanagan problems. There's problems, and I say this as somebody who defended Mike Flanagan back when Oculus had just come out, and a lot of people were giving him trash, but I liked him. But he does have, as the longer he goes on and the more things he makes, the more you see he has certain tendencies, and this happens with every director. So even in that sense, it does have its problems. But my bigger problem isn't with it as a series. My biggest problem is with it as it's taking the mantle of Jackson, trying kind of like stolen valor from Shirley Jackson.
Yeah.
And I think if he had called it anything else,
it would have been fine.
Like I feel like you could say, if you're going to look at these things, step back and say, well, the Weiss movie, that was an adaptation. The Jan de Bont movie, it was an adaptation. It was not a great, straightforward adaptation. I'm not sure what he was trying to do in some spots, but it was definitely an adaptation of The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes.
Like, if you didn't put names on any of this stuff, you just said, here, watch this movie.
Yeah.
I would be like, oh, that's from The Haunting of Hill House. That's The Haunting of Hill House. If I watched the Flanagan one, and somehow you had bleeped out, like, names and references and didn't tell me the name of the series itself, I've been like, this is, like, a really long movie about this haunted house. I would say, and there seems to be some Shirley Jackson influence here. There seems to be a lot of Stephen King influence here. Oh, wait a minute, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I felt like that could be all on its own, or maybe he should have called it something else, like backstory to the Hill House or anything like that.
But it wasn't even the backstory.
It wasn't.
It was like that. I feel like if that had done, that was an interesting angle. I think the concept of we've already seen everybody's version of the Haunting of Hill House. Let's see this vague backstory we got about the Crane family. Let's look at that. That would have been interesting. And even the way he did it was interesting for what it was, but there were problems with it. And there was, I think, the choice to import characters from other parts of the book, and the choice to elide motivations. And I think it became a problem, and it anyway
added people who probably didn't need to be there. Well, I mean, it gave it something. It was, but
there was like some naked fan service in there, which is like, I don't know. We're going to get into it as we go through. But, I think maybe let's start like this. Like there's a lot of moving parts, especially if we're including the Flanagan thing. So, let's go ahead and start with Hill House itself.
The original.
Now, I think Jackson does a good job we get this idea of this grand country manor surrounded by forests. There's a point early in the book where she talks about, it's the first night that everybody's there, and she talks about what people, like their friends and relatives, are doing at that exact moment. Like, they're looking out the window, they're sweeping the front step, whatever. But she's talking about, like, basically what is going on in the world outside of Hill House. And I think it's a really striking passage, and it gives a good sense of not just Hill House is just isolated, like all haunted houses are just isolated. Haunted houses are always, it's on a big empty lot and there's no other houses nearby or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is not just, it's isolated. This is like Hill House is a thing apart from this reality. That gives you a really good sense of it.
Yeah, it's just not considered, it's totally different than what you would think.
Right.
It's like, in a different universe almost.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the all of like the way you understand the world works. It stops at the threshold of the house. Or the
and we kind of see that when Eleanor's the first one to arrive and she drives up and she wants to be let in.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you sure you're expected? Nobody else is here.
Yes, Mr. Dudley. Yes, Miss Charming Mr. Dudley.
Yeah. And, the threatening tone he takes with her. So, it's just like at those gates, the world stops and you enter a whole new...
Yeah, he's almost like a little three-headed dog guarding the gates of hell. Like, there's no going back.
A new dimension.
Yeah, a new dimension. Yeah. So you get... So this is... And the Robert Wise version, it's very it feels like, okay, this is about what you're thinking. It's like, it's this big old house and it's ornate and everything, but it's still like, okay, yeah, this was maybe a little grander than I had envisioned in the book, but I still get it.
Yes.
We get to the Yonda and I was like, I don't even know if I had context for it the first time I saw it, but upon rewatch to do the podcast, I was like, this is not a haunted country manor. This is fucking Hogwarts. This is what this thing is. It was huge, way bigger than any other version of Hill House. It was ginormous, and on the outside, and then you get inside, nobody built this house. I don't care how rich this dude was. Nobody built this fucking thing.
Yes, I have to tell you, the entire time watching, she's like, it is not. How can it be so big inside? And she continued to tell me the entire time, nobody could have built this house. Nobody would have done this.
Nothing about it made sense.
Yeah.
Which, okay, arguably there is some alluding to the nonsensible parts of Hill House, but this was clearly a vehicle. We want to show off our CGI budget. That's what this was. Now, I will say, this is what I'll say about, this is the nice thing I'll say about, there's nice things to say about the Jan de Bont version, believe it or not. The nicest thing I will say about it, though, is if I really wanted to give him some credit for it, and I'm not digging up Jan de Bont interviews from 1999 to figure out what his motivation was. I'm saying the nice thing I can say is that there's definitely in the book, there's two impressions of Hill House that you get a distinct flavor for. One is Eleanor's version, where she kind of she waffles back and forth between loving the place and kind of understanding it as this kind of dour gray purgatory, where it's just kind of everything's just kind of blue and cold and but Theodora, ooh, she always described it as it's like a mad fun house.
Yeah.
But in a bad way. That's not good. It's not a compliment. And that's very much what the Jan de Bont Hill House looks like. It's this is a fun house for a person that's done a lot of acid or something. This place is crazy. It's got the fireplace. It's got this huge, I don't even know what this thing on this fireplace is that ends up decapitating Owen Wilson's character at one point, who plays Luke Sanderson. But it ends up decapitating him. And it's cool and all. I love that scene, but it's what even is that? What is going on there?
I wondered what that was too. I was like, okay, and I was just I was looking at it and I was like, I've never seen a fireplace with something like that in it. But the fireplace is so big that I can't believe you're really supposed to build a fire in that. You're supposed to have
it's
a tent set up around it with a campfire in the middle.
I would believe, you said, this is some sort of medieval fantasy castle or something, like Hogwarts. Yeah, it makes total sense. But an oil baron or whatever Hugh Crane was supposed to be, I forget how he made his money, a clothing factory or something. That level, I'm sure he was those guys had crazy money back then. But that is your, and I want to say even the characters in the Jan de Bont version, and I forget if it's Eleanor or Theo. One of them, or Nell. I'm going to call her Nell now because they go back and forth. I'm just calling her Nell. I don't know if it's Nell or Theo. One of them, even I think it's Theo, who even says this house is just overdone.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Did Catherine Zeta-Jones ad-lib that? Because that is. It is ridiculous that you have a character saying, yeah, everybody, you're right. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm sure it was Theo who said that, because now, as we get into later, when you look at these characters, Nell is always I don't know exactly what to use to describe her. I want to say it's one of those, as a child, she was meant to have to do everything for herself and, and then to take care of others. She's very sheltered. She's very, very not people. What am I looking for?
She's awkward.
She's very awkward. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's kind of says stuff, and people are like, "That's a weird thing to say," but okay.
And then you got Theo, who looks like a world traveler. You know,
and Theo is the exact opposite of Nell.
Yeah. So it's really funny how they put those two together in the movie, and it works.
Well, yeah, and it works in every version too. I think
it does.
And we'll get into the characters later, but yeah. But I think what's interesting is they did Jan de Bont's choice. If it is in fact a nod to the book's understanding, like the book's expression of Theo always compares it to a fun house or whatever. I was like, if that was Jan de Bont's intention, okay, I guess so. But to me, it was like making that, solidifying that, like putting that onto the film, like yes, this is like this crazy fun house. I'm like, that takes away the whole point of it, is that like everybody has a different perspective.
Yeah, and it was his version where they found the fun room,
right?
And this fun room is like it almost like spins around with mirrors.
It's exactly like a house of mirrors in a carnival.
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy because that was one of the first things they found in the house, because they went exploring together once Theo got there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny that she would refer to it as a fun house after having this room found too. So she kind of put it together there. But yeah, I mean, but
like that's the only room in the house that like is even vague. Like we don't get this weird, everything else is like too much. It's just, and it's too pointedly like that was one room that was like that was not the whole house at all.
I mean, all the other rooms are crazy. We've discussed
there are other right
how I feel about some of the bedrooms.
Okay, we will get. Let's get into it now, because this is about the set and not the character. Fucking Nell's bedroom.
There's this huge bed and this huge fireplace.
I don't even care about all that because like.
But it leads up to what's on these things.
It's okay. It's okay. Well, I was not going there yet. But okay, so there's these. Okay, there is in the book. There's like faces. There's, especially in the nursery, there's like the faces of children carved into the detail work on the walls and stuff, which is fine. And there's some version of that in every adaptation. They are completely insane in the Jan de Bont one. They come to life. They roll their eyes. They make surprised expressions, and it's really I know that in 1999 that was amazing CGI, but it did not age well. For one, it was like it makes the movie into something that is not at all even like a little bit upsetting. And now it's just this is ridiculous.
I thought it was super creepy. I just don't want a bunch of children's faces looking at me.
I think the idea of like having the carvings and stuff in the wood, like that is creepy. But like having them making these like, "Ooh, what's going on?" faces the whole time. That was the problem.
Yeah.
You know. And then at the end of the Jan de Bont movie, when this insane bed that Nell is sleeping on, it looks like a medieval fortress with a mattress in the middle of it.
It's like a 4-canopy, isn't it?
It's got all these, the headboard has all these like, it has an overhang and all these gables and shit. It's wild.
Yeah, it was.
And then it comes to life at the end of the fucking movie, and it's just... It's the dumbest shit. I'm sorry. It looks so bad. This is somebody that took the book very literally and said, you know what? If Shirley Jackson were making this movie, I'll bet you she would take full advantage of this incredible new technology. And I'm like, I don't think you've ever read another Shirley Jackson book if you think that was going to happen. But anyway...
The bed comes to life. Tries to kind of... I think it tries to keep her from...
It's trying to keep her there, which is an ongoing theme in all of these. It's an ongoing theme in the book. It's an ongoing theme. All the adaptations acknowledge the theme. The house is trying to... The house... And we can get into what the metaphor is, but the house is trying to keep Nell. Nell is trying to stay there. They belong together, you know.
Yes,
I
because
mean,
she keeps saying the house needs me.
The house needs me. This is now, which we get the picture very early on. This is okay, at least in the original and the first two adaptations. This is all very clearly a metaphor. This is about Nell's loneliness. This is about her place in the world as a human being, which, you know.
Yeah. But the first one, it almost feels like Nell is like a teenager that needs to be watched because of everything that happens.
I mean, I don't know that ever changes, but we'll get into it.
I don't think so, really. I mean, she needs to be watched everywhere she goes.
Yeah. I do think, okay, so I think the both in the Wise movie and the Flanagan series, the house is much better. It's much more.
Yes.
It's much. Now,
believable.
Flanagan does do a lot.
Yes, he does.
He doesn't do. It's not like the Bond one where it's just way too much. But he does do a lot. And that's, I think, where some of his biggest mistakes come in, is that he, you know, I'm not going to talk about him as a director in general, but I think in this particular series, you know, he could have used somebody that was not afraid to hurt his feelings to say, look, you don't need to do this. Like, this is too much. This is, as I was writing up my notes and stuff, I kept thinking kitchen sink. This is kitchen sink filmmaking, where you're just throwing everything at it and just wait till something's going to stick. And I'm like, and what sucks about it is that, like, I think the heart of the story that he was telling, the heart of the series was excellent. I loved it. But then it's like, why do there does not have to be a ghost in every frame. This does not, you know, in the movie, like the statues and stuff, I think were done well, and that was done, I think, in line with the book, where the statues, your impression of them is always like, and this, I think the Wise movie gets this too. It's like they don't move per se, but you always feel like they're going to. Mm-hmm. They always feel like they're watching you. They don't do anything, but you always feel like something is always watching and listening.
Yeah, and I felt like in the miniseries, like, because you say, you know, you didn't have to have a ghost in every take or whatever.
You don't have to have them at all. I mean, that's the point of it. You don't have to have them at all in this.
Yeah, I mean, there were at least one that I can think of right off the top of my head that was pretty good, and it wasn't. If you noticed it, great, and if you didn't, great. But it was one of those times where if you noticed it, you were like, ooh. I
think there was a couple times where, okay, they used a ghost was used, and it made sense, but it was center of the film. I think the tall man with the bowling hat was a big one. You couldn't have had. It was great, and obviously, like, Olivia in general and Nell, like, yeah, I mean, you needed all those. But I'm like, having this, but those were central characters. Those said something about the core story. But having all these other ghosts in the fucking background, like, what? We don't need it. It doesn't. That's not what this story was ever about.
Yeah. And
even the story he's telling here, which is about all of the Cranes, but it does center on Nell.
It does.
You just didn't need all that. Like, it makes sense. The guy in the bowling hat, like the tall guy, like Olivia makes sense as a ghost. Nell makes sense. Having the tall man in the bowling hat makes sense.
For a few reasons. Now, there's at least one reason where it was a problem. Yes. But we'll get into that. But it's also like the idea that of these young children staying in this house, in the Flanagan version, there's these young children in a scary house. I mean, whether they believe it's haunted or not, it's a big fancy house, you know, it's in the woods, it's intimidating to children. So saying, like, even if this guy in the bowling hat, you know, even if you can understand it as because he appears to Luke after Luke's mother tells him they find this bowling hat in the attic or whatever, and like Luke's like, oh, that's my big boy hat. So now this tall man is looking for his hat, and so he appears to Luke. So even if you can Luke, we can as an audience, we can understand that as that is a scared child's imagination. Yes.
And it works just as well.
Yes.
And it definitely works without 27 other ghosts in the background.
Yeah.
You know?
It does. So
I think so in that sense he's doing a little too much. But the house is still light years better than the fucking the house is awesome. I do like Flanagan's house.
I do like Flanagan's house too, and the thing I think I like the best about all of the houses is there's a spiral staircase.
The spiral staircase.
And that was kept through every adaptation. It was in the book, and it was done very well.
Yes, I think they changed. It's this always kind of like this. In the book and in the Wise version, well, and in Yonda Bont, it's like this experience on the stair. I mean, this experience on this wrought iron staircase is like, it's one of the things that like kind of breaks Eleanor.
Yes.
And it does that in Flanagan, but in a different way. And again, like, this is where I have the problem with the way he decided to approach this. Like, if you just didn't name these people, like, it was like, if you're going to tell the backstory,
tell the backstory.
Tell the backstory, right? And it would have worked. But like, I don't know. Anyway, we will go into it, because I think the next thing I talk about is that I wanted to make a note to talk about was the tower.
Oh.
And I know there is speculation in the novel that one of the Mrs. because there were 3 Mrs. Cranes, I guess. That
yeah, there was a lot. One of them kept getting married, and the house just kept killing them off.
Right. We'll get into that too. I mean, the idea of the house being evil, right? Maybe like Hugh Crane, we get into a lot of this in all the versions of, well, except for Flanagan, we get into all these versions about how Hugh Crane, things that were wrong with Hugh Crane. I'm like, but, okay, so was the house evil? I mean, not the house necessarily, but the land he built it on. Did the house inherit something from that land? And then Hugh Crane was kind of like the final piece of it. Because it's never clear. That's the beauty of it. It's never clear.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of any well-told haunted house story, is you never know exactly why.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the tower is part of that. So this tower, possibly one of the third Mrs. Crane, I can't remember. There's speculation that she jumped from it to kill herself.
Yeah, I think it had to be the third one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of my favorite scenes in Robert Weiss's movie is Eleanor's out on the veranda, and she's looking up the tower. Yeah. And she's kind of wondering, like, well, what must it have been like to stand up there and look down and climb through the bars, and when she's thinking that, they do this neat thing where it's like the camera, all of a sudden the camera is up in the tower looking down at her, and it just falls, like just drops right towards her. It's an amazing shot.
It is an amazing shot.
Especially if you consider, when that movie was made. It was a great shot.
And if you don't know what's coming, it's kind of freaky.
It's freaky. I love it. And it knocks her off balance or whatever. But I'm like, man, I love that shot. And she loses her balance, and Dr. Montague comes in at the last second before she falls off the veranda. This is in this movie, that is the turning point where Dr. Montague realizes he's made a terrible mistake. Yes. I don't think any of the other versions use the tower that well. If they use it really at all.
I don't think any of the other versions use the tower. I mean, they talk about it.
Like in Flanagan, like they have the room that's in the tower, but that room could have been anywhere. And I swear to God, the first time I saw the series, I thought it was just at the end of a hall. I never put it together that it was in the tower. Yeah. So it's like the fact that it was a tower didn't matter. Yeah. But go ahead. What were you saying?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, I said none of the others really used it.
Yeah, I don't think any of the others used that tower that well. No. Especially with Nell. I mean, they talked about it, and they talked about how the house wasn't built correctly. Hugh Crane did certain things to the house and building to give it a different feel and a different look and a different, like, they
always kind of keep you disoriented.
Yeah, because none of the doors are set properly and stuff like that.
So nothing's quite exactly where you expect it to be.
Yeah, so when you think your room is right there where you could look out and just look over and see the tower, it's not there because the way it was built. And so they talk about all that in both movies, I believe. Yeah. But I think that's the only one where she actually falls, where they actually give the tower a little bit more.
Yeah. And it's great. Yeah. I mean, she does lose her balance on the veranda, but in the book, but it's really early on.
Yes.
And it's Luke catches her, and that's when they start talking about the angles and stuff. And I thought it was interesting, that conversation in the book, for a couple of reasons. Because it was like, it reminded me like of something out of Lovecraft, where like all the geometry is a little off.
Yeah.
And that's like the thing that alerts the protagonist that something's wrong. But also, in the both the opening paragraph and the closing paragraph of the novel, they talk about the doors being sensibly shut and everything being at right angles and all that. I'm like, but it wasn't.
No.
It never was.
No, it was not.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, just the way okay, so the way you're seeing the house, and then there's different times where they go different ways, and you're like, wait a minute, they're going to Nell's room. Shouldn't it be the other way?
Yeah.
And they did a good job at having the house to disorient the viewer. So it was... the architecture for the house did its job well, I think.
Yeah. And it's like, it's funny because the DeBont house, I was like, you would have thought that one would have been super disorienting, but it isn't. Like, it's so well lit and well mapped out that you like never actually lose track of where anybody is.
Yeah.
But in all the other versions, it's like you're always like, where are they?
Where
now?
are they?
Yeah.
What are they doing? Mm-hmm. Which room did they go into?
Right.
And I like the fact that the house is so big that Dr. Montague had to have a map that he studied before all this started, so he would know where all the rooms are. And I think the talk about how the doors are not put in correctly comes on the first morning when Eleanor and Theo are going down to the dining room to have breakfast, and they're like calling for Dr. Montague and they're calling for Luke because they can't find their way to the dining room. And they said they left all the doors leading to the dining room open to help them be able to call for them. So if they needed help, Luke could help them.
Right.
And all the doors closed.
Yes.
On their own.
Which and that's another thing too, this idea of him making a map. So he explains how the house, so this is all this part of the book, this front part of the book where they're kind of getting into it, and he's explaining how Hill House is set up.
Yes.
And it's interesting because it's basically like concentric circles almost, but the doors, like you said, the doors are never where they're supposed to be. So instead of like just, we could go out this room and go into this room and then out and then we're on the veranda, you have to be like, no, and then you kind of have to slide down the hall this way, and then you got to go through this room, and then you got to slide the other way. And so it's basically a huge maze. Now, what I find interesting is, so he never comes out and says, yeah, it's a huge maze.
Yeah.
He never says that. And if you look at the Mike Flanagan series, one of the very first images in the opening credits is like an overview of the house. It's a maze.
Yes.
Now, we are going to get in later why I thought that was an interesting choice for him to make. That particular imagery right up front. Why that was an interesting choice. But I like the idea of using the maze, the labyrinth, as an analog for the human mind.
Yeah.
Which neither the Wise film really, nor the DeBont film really do. There is some repetition of the maze theme in the Flanagan series, especially because Olivia does these. She does these drawings of the house and stuff, and like she's an architect. I guess she's an architect.
I think she is.
And she's drawing like their dream house, and she does plans for Hill House so they can figure out things about where pipes, because they're renovating Hill House in the series. So she's doing all this stuff, and like every time they show her blueprints, it looks like a maze.
Yes.
Which was fine. I mean, I think that's a nice callback, and I like that they did it. But I think it's interesting that I think it's interesting his particular imagery of the maze in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But I think it's interesting that he's the only one. I think Wise did it more subtly and just you never quite knew where you were in the house. And I think Flanagan like everything, he's not very subtle.
No.
So he like, here's a maze.
Yeah, I almost want to put the two mazes together because I know where you're going with that.
Yes, you do know where I'm going.
See, like, are they mapped out the same way?
We're going to talk about the second maze here that we're referring to at the end. But, okay. Anyway, so that, and I think it's interesting because I think the idea of the labyrinth and the human mind, that's kind of like just a thing, like I hate to call it a trope because it's an ideal that it predates the Jackson novel, but she uses it well. Flanagan uses it, Weiss uses it well. You see it again in another movie that I'm confident that Mike Flanagan doesn't give a shit about, which was Hellraiser 2. But my mind kept going to that of like the idea of like the labyrinth.
Yeah.
That's like the labyrinth is basically like your ability to cope in the labyrinth is like that's your personal hell.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But I like the fact that the doors kept closing on them, and then he's like, "See, girls," and he like opens the door and it just stays open, and then a couple minutes later they turn around to go out the door and it's closed, and you never even heard it close.
Yeah.
So,
but it's interesting too because like the doctor in the book especially, I think the later interpretations of Montague are very odd, but in the book especially, like he is, until his wife gets there, he is very much the voice of reason.
Oh yeah.
Like basically you just had to know that it was going to, like, have faith that these things are going to happen, like the doors are going to open and all that. And Eleanor at one point in the book is like, he is very careful to direct our conversations away from like evil.
Yes.
And like that's like when the doors are shutting and stuff like he's like very much like, look, just open the door, it's not a big deal, like
yeah.
And I never believed reading the book until like the end of it. I never believed that he actually believed the fucking house was haunted.
I don't know if he believed it or not. I noticed that he steers their conversations, but I figured he steered the conversation so as not to put too much judgment into his experiment. Yeah. Like if you talk about evil, you're going to
no, he was that was definitely what he was doing.
Yeah.
But I also think I don't think like I said, and I think at the end of the book I realized I was wrong, but like for most of the book I was like, I don't think he doesn't believe this. Yeah. Because he started explaining like the angles are wrong, that's why the doors kind of drip closed.
Yeah. All the ghost hunter reasons for stuff happening.
Yes. By the way, if you've never read the Carnegie the Ghost Hunter series, it's a fun little series of books, but like short stories or whatever. I think there's 4 of them. But anyway, well, I wanted to go back to the spiral staircase.
Yes.
So in the book, there was the Crane sisters. Hugh Crane had 2 daughters. They ended up falling out.
Yes.
One of them stayed in the house.
And the other left.
But the one that stayed in the house had a companion who is rumored to have hung herself at the top of the spiral staircase.
Yeah, right? She came from town. The sister took her because she was lonely and wanted somebody. And she was getting older.
Yes.
I believe. So she took a companion from town to bring to the house to help take care of her.
So we're already getting, we get a lot of echoes and parallels and stuff. So we have a parallel here between Nell and her mother.
Yes.
And then this older Mrs. Crane or Ms. Crane, I guess, I don't know, and her caretaker or whatever.
We'll call her a caretaker just to avoid
confusion. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting. This is where like things start getting muddy here because we have this backstory of this caretaker of a Crane sister who hung herself at the top of the stairs. Now, in the Mike Flanagan adaptation, that's where Nell, a Crane sister, hangs herself. A Crane sister, in Mike Flanagan's version, she's not a Crane sister, really. Eleanor, and her married name, when she does get married in the series, she's Eleanor Vance then.
Yes.
And this is what I mean. It's like you're unnecessarily muddying things up here. Like the imagery of Nell hanging herself off the staircase, the imagery of the, the caretaker hanging herself off the staircase. That's all good. But it's not like nothing's wrong with it per se. It was the choice to start blurring these lines here.
Yes.
What are you telling us the backstory or not? You know, like you could. I mean, I think you could retell this with the Cranes successfully, and even use the same idea of the caretaker or one of the Cranes doing this. But you didn't. You used Nell. And she is a powerful central character.
Yes.
So it was weird. I don't want to call it fan fiction because that's not what it is. But I think I'll get into it later.
And they put Nell on the spiral staircase in every version.
But and she usually has a breakdown there.
Yes. But in Flanagan's, she did not.
She did not break. Yeah, she was being tricked by the house. You know. So I think, they had the stairs in the Wise and DeBont versions. The spiral staircases were really rickety, like falling apart.
Yes.
Like it was dangerous. In both versions, it was like, I think in the DeBont version, it's Montague. In the Wise version, it's Luke.
Yes.
That has to go get Eleanor down.
Eleanor down, yes.
Because it's like falling off the wall. It's getting ready to collapse. Flanagan couldn't do that, though. So he has this major set piece, and he can't do that because the heart of the story is what is on top of the stairs in the room beyond.
I know, I was like, he could have put that room anywhere.
He could have put it anywhere, but he wanted all this stuff to come together.
Yeah.
So, and again, not necessarily bad per se, but if you get to the point where you're taking this well-formed piece of clay and you're gonna, you can do your own changes to it or whatever, and you can turn it around and let us see another side of it. But what he did was say, I'm going to take this and I'm just going to just poke holes all over the place. I'm going to flip it upside down and smush it, and you're going to know it was that same piece of clay, but it's just unrecognizable now.
Yeah.
It's not doing the same thing it was supposed to be doing before.
Yeah.
So you're telling if you don't want to tell Nell's story again, which I understand because it's already been done at least 3 times by this point.
Yes.
Then don't tell Nell's story.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. It really is.
But then you can't use all the cool stuff that those characters had,
Yeah.
So everybody had to be able to get to that room, so that's why. So I don't know. I always thought Eleanor's fascination with the tower in the book, it felt like, okay, so that's kind of like the tower is this, if we understand, like, the book is a metaphor for her loneliness, and her, like, Hill House is like the metaphor for her psyche, that, like, staircase, her fascination with that staircase, that is like the crack in her psyche.
Yes, it is.
That's the thing that, like, lets everything get in and kind of, like, just breaks her.
Yeah.
And then we lose that when it has to be, the staircase has to be there so everybody can get to the top of it at the end in the Flanagan series. Like, what was it? Why? Then why? Just so
why? It didn't have the same meaning.
Yeah. So let's talk about that room. While we're talking about the let's talk about the room at the top of the stairs. I call it the room of requirement. Again, with the Hogwarts reference, but I call it because it is whatever you want it to be. The ideal that they give, the reason they give at the end of the series, when they're explaining everything, when Nell's ghost is explaining everything to everybody, is basically the room it's a treehouse for Luke.
Yes.
It was a toy room for Nell. It was a dance studio for Theo, which I actually thought making it a dance studio for Theo was a nice callback to a line dropped in the novel. But it was what was it for?
A game room for
what's his butt? Steven, how could I forget that? It was a treehouse for Luke, right?
A treehouse for Luke and a game room for Steve.
What was it for Shirley?
Okay, it was treehouse, a game room, a dance studio.
It was a family room for Shirley.
Oh, it was like her room where she sat and drank tea and read.
No, that was for Olivia.
Oh,
yeah, it was a reading room for Olivia, and I like Hugh Crane didn't have he was just trying to get the house flipped so they get the fuck out. Like he didn't have time to sit in a room.
yeah, yeah.
But so it's like this is the room of the Carmen, and like that's what it was like what everybody wanted it to be, so that they would just kind of sit quietly while the house ate them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is a neat concept.
I guess.
I like better the concept, like, it's taking that idea, and I don't think it is taking the idea. I think it maybe is taking the idea by osmosis. I don't think it meant to take the idea that everybody has a different impression of the house, because everybody is coming at it from a different angle.
Yes.
So the house isn't necessarily really haunted. It's just whatever is that person's, like, not weak spot, but that it's like the house is the reflection of that person's personality. That's why for Theo it's like a crazy fucking weird ass fun house.
Yeah.
And for Luke it's just like this rickety old, I'm going to inherit this one day, I got to deal with it and clean it up thing,
Yeah.
Like, and for Eleanor it's
home.
It's home. And it's home because it is lonely and it is isolated and it is her in a house.
Yeah.
And the room of requirement, I mean, like, had this idea of, like, well, you sit still at the house each, like, okay, all right. All right, I guess that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Again, it's a neat concept, apart from, if we take it and we call this the haunting of this other house, any other house we've had, then it would have been okay.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, I do think, though, we could talk all day about how every adaptation is different and how they're all different from the novel, but I think what is actually more interesting are the things that remain constant in every version.
Yes. I mean, well, the staircase.
The staircase, but even that changes. But let's talk about the doorknobs.
Changed a lot of things in the house. Doorknobs will never change now after I've seen this movie. Mm-hmm. Because I would be afraid of any of us picking out the doorknob of hell.
The doorknobs.
Okay, these doorknobs are like lion's heads.
It's lion's heads in all of them. And they're fucking scary. And I think in Jan de Bont's version, they roar and shit. There's something dumb. It's like,
yeah.
They gotta
Fuck
move.
that. You gotta grab these things and turn them. No, if it's roaring at me, I'm just gonna try and figure out how to get out the window now.
But I think they go along with it. Like, I think another one thing that all the versions have in common, even though de Bont's version overdoes it comically, are the statues and stuff. But I think along with the carvings and the statues, the doorknobs are part of this sense of like it's an oppressive hell. Yeah, it's an oppressive atmosphere all the time. It's like you can't even appreciate whether the shit's actually pretty or not, because it's just everything all the time is just so menacing.
Yeah, I had no time to admire the doorknobs. When I saw they were lion's heads, I was done. Yeah. I was like, you're going to put your hand there to turn the knob and it's just going to eat your hand.
But I think it's neat because it kind of like the doorknob, and there's they all have some variation on the doorknob turning.
Yeah.
And like the doorknob turning, and the person that's not turning it is looking at like, why is the doorknob turning? So that is like that's a thing. That's like, this is an interesting thing that they decided to keep, is the doorknobs particularly. Yeah. I think actually, and again, we go back to like all that stuff that kind of, it gives you this air of oppressiveness, and it's like, then why I have all this stuff to look at on the set, like these weird carvings and these weird statues and everything. Now I gotta look at the 10 ghosts that are coming out of the dark in the background, but just kind of mugging for the camera, like what? Anyway, they all have the scene of banging on Nell or Eleanor and Theo's doors.
Yeah, when Theo starts screaming for Eleanor in the middle of the night, and Eleanor goes to her room and they're banging on the door. That's constant throughout. The first message.
So, okay, yeah. let's go back. I want to say this before I forget it, and then we're going to go back to the message, okay? Because I can't remember. I don't believe I wrote the message down. I don't know why I didn't write the message. There's a scene in all of them where you can hear Nell can hear voices and laughter and stuff coming from where Theo's room had been. Like Theo, because at one point Theo and Nell like stay in the same room in all of them, and Eleanor, and it's one of the one of the straws that breaks the camel's back. And she spends a night listening to what through the wall, these voices, this voice and this giggle coming from where Theo's room had been, like nobody's there, and she's holding on to Theo's hand, and in the morning she realizes she wasn't holding on to Theo's hand. She doesn't know whose hand she was holding on to. Yeah,
because she wakes up and she's on the chase lounge. Theo's on the bed.
Yeah.
And she's like, whose hand was I holding?
Yeah.
And you can almost see a transformation right there in her. There. Yeah. It's like she realizes like there's something else with her.
And Flanagan has a kind of similar scene. His is the most changed out of all of them. It's kind of a similar scene, but it's very early in the series, and it's very early in the sequence of events, and so it doesn't serve the same purpose anymore.
Yeah.
It's just part of this, instead of, it's just kind of part of this buildup of tension rather than like a thing that actually breaks Nell.
Yeah.
Which, again, I'm like, okay, I mean, why keep it then? Like, you don't need it. You're not using it for the thing that made it so successful, because like on its own it's like, well, it's just voices in a room, but the context of we've been watching Eleanor unwind this whole time, and then she has this, like, she's hearing this, and then she realizes she was holding somebody else's hand. Like, yes, that snaps her. That's not just like, oh, now I'm kind of a little slightly more scared than I was 5 minutes ago.
No.
Like,
it's freaking creepy.
Yeah. So just don't put it in, because you're not even talking the Nell you're talking about in Flanagan's series is not the Nell of the other adaptations.
No, it's a very different Nell.
So we don't even need that. Do we even need that scene? If you're going to put all the, I mean, like, you got to kind of like, what do you do? Like, again, the kitchen sink, why everything is going in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, like, I like to see, like, if I'm watching the series and I'm not thinking about the great job, like, and the Wise movie, I love that scene. That was amazing. It was really good. And if I don't have to think about that and I'm just watching Flame, I'm like, it's great, But like, as soon as you invite the comparison by calling it the Haunting of Hill House, now I'm like, ugh, why'd you do that? Let's talk about the message. Welcome home, Nell.
Yes.
Or Eleanor.
And it's written in what looks to be blood.
Could be blood. Probably
Could be
blood.
Paint.
Could be paint.
In one adaptation, it's written across a picture of Crane.
Yeah, which was just so dumb, but
the picture was huge and it was overblown.
Yeah.
In the other adaptation, it is written across Theo's bedroom wall, correct?
Which I think, that's very,
And that's what makes Theo go and stay with Nell.
Yeah.
But it is written either in blood or red paint. I don't think they really figure it out in either one. I don't think they care as much as the fact that...
Well, in the book, there's blood all over. Yeah. There's something like probably blood all over Theo's clothes. Yeah.
And of course, Nell is very upset. She starts screaming to, remove it, take it down, clean it up.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, we didn't do it. Nobody is saying they did it. They're all saying they didn't do it. And it just kind of appeared.
Yes. And it just kind of appears in like every version except for Flanagan's. Well, it appears. Olivia sees it, and I thought it was funny because she calls Nell in because it says because it has Nell's name on it, so she assumes Nell did it.
Yes.
And Nell's like, I didn't do that, and I'm like, wait, y'all are flipping this house anyway. It doesn't fucking matter. You're gonna repaint that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. But anyway, and then Theo, the Theo, of course, in the Flanagan adaptation, Theo and Nell are sisters. But So they still, Theo's like, she didn't do it, whatever. So there's this whole scene. And then later on in the series, you see Nell has a vision of Olivia again at that same spot. But she's finishing, because so you see, when we first see that message in the series, it just says, like, Nell.
Yes. And
then you see later in the series where Nell sees Olivia is actually writing on the wall, "Welcome home, Nell."
Yep.
But she's writing it backwards. Which, okay, it seems at first like a kitchen sink choice, but it's not, because we will get into it later where Flanagan decides that he's going to use time, the malleability of time, as an important aspect of the story, which Olivia's backwards writing would fit into. And if we had actually stuck with that, I think it would have been very successful, but we did not. So we didn't do that. I think that would have been, if we had leaned heavily on the time thing and consistently on the time thing, and we had cut out all the weird ghosts in the background, you would have had something that was like, this is the most interesting interpretation of this story ever. We didn't do that. Yeah. We didn't do that. We couldn't help ourselves. So anyway, do you have...
We just couldn't stop it, yeah.
Other thoughts about that message?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the miniseries. I liked it apart from the movies. But I felt like after the very first vision of the maze and then that, I could see where I felt like a lot of his...
yeah.
I felt like I knew where a lot of his visions were coming from.
And I don't think they were Shirley Jackson.
No, I do not think that.
I think they were, okay, we're going to get into it in a minute. They didn't come directly from Shirley Jackson, I'll say that. Mm-mm. Yeah. We're going to talk about the backwards writing again. But I did want to talk about, like, okay, you could actually fit this into the vision of, like, the time thing. But I'm glad that you mentioned that. So, like, I was not going to get to that to the end, but so I'm glad you mentioned it now, because there is more to it.
Yeah, there is. But yeah, I felt like that was like, I felt like that helped Nell break more and more. Like,
yes.
It was the little things like that you could see, like the clean breaks in her.
Yes.
Where other little things would happen and you could see cracks starting,
mm-hmm.
but that was one of those things where you saw the clean break hit and you're like, oh, she's about done.
She's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's toasty.
Yeah. So let's talk about, we've been kind of off and on doing it, but let's like focus here on talking about like some of the characters.
I love Theo.
I love Theo. We're going to talk about Theo. So, because I think Shirley Jackson's novel, a lot can be said about it. A lot can be said about its importance, but I think if we're just looking at it as a piece of storytelling, it is an object lesson in the elegance of simplicity. Like, it is a very straightforward story, beautifully so. Like, it does exactly what it needs to do. There is not a wasted word. Everything is towards telling that story. Even like every character serves a purpose. Even the Montagues, even like Mrs. Montague and her friend, especially the Dudleys. But I don't think we can say the same thing. I mean, I don't think that Robert Wise does a lot with the characters. He changes Mrs. Montague and her friend a little, or her friend doesn't even exist in his movie. Mm-mm. So he changes Mrs. Montague a little bit. I don't know that it matters. Devant doesn't do a whole lot with the characters either. I do want to say Flanagan does a lot with the characters, and it tells the story that he wanted to tell, but it isn't the story of Hill House. And these are not the characters. These are not Shirley Jackson's characters.
No. And he added characters.
He
added a child.
We're going to talk about the characters.
Sorry.
We're going to talk about it. All right. Let's talk about. We're going to talk about Theo because we all love Theo. But let's talk about Eleanor/Nell. Okay, she's at the heart of all the adaptations.
She is. I feel like she's a very. I mean, I've told you my feelings. I like her and everything, but I feel like that she was a very, very sheltered.
Yeah.
Held into the house.
She's a lonely person. She is a pathologically lonely person.
Doesn't know how to be personable.
Right. Well, she's been taking care of her mother her whole life. She's at this point in all of these versions. She's in her 30s, and she's the only life she's known has been taking care of her mother.
And every version, it seems like her mother was very mean.
Yeah, but the story revolves around Nell.
Yes.
It revolves around this aspect of her personality. It is the point. It is the exact point of the story. Is the way that Nell's experience at Hill House, the way it brings her into her. She finally accepts that, like, she accepts herself, and it's in a sad, tragic way that other people might not understand. But what it really is like she has accepted her loneliness here.
Yeah.
And I think if we're just talking about comparing it to the book, I like Julie Harris's portrayal in the Robert Wise adaptation. Is my favorite. I think it's the closest to Nell, like Eleanor as she actually is in the book. I think. I mean, forgive me for this. I was, especially back in the day, I was a big Lily Taylor fan. I thought she was a great actor. I mean, I'm talking about her. She's gone. She's still with us. But I think that her portrayal of Nell had a lot of issues. I think that Julie Harris's portrayal, we have what I always imagined Nell was, which is this is a lonely young woman. She is trying to figure out where she fits in, and the slow realization that she doesn't fit in anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like that yearning, like all that is her end, like that desire, and then the final acknowledgement that, like, that's not in the cards for me. Like, that's it, But Lily Taylor gives us somebody who, okay, if we're going to talk, I'm going to have to bring it up here because she gives us somebody who feels like she is half gone from the very beginning.
Yes.
I don't know what she's doing with her eyes in this. She never looks like she's focusing on what she's supposed to be focusing on. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, what is she looking at? What is she looking at here? What is going on? So, The Shining, the Stanley Kubrick movie, right? A lot of people complain about it because they say that the biggest problem was that Jack Nicholson played Jack Torrance as, like, crazy from the start.
Which was great.
Which, look, we're going to talk about The Shining all day, but, like, that seems to be the problem with it. Like, in the book, they're imagining that Jack Torrance's character was never, but they're saying, well, like, Jack Torrance, he had potential in the book, and then he got to the hotel, and, one thing led to another. But they're saying in the movie, he just starts off crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, and that's my complaint about Lily Taylor here. Like she starts off psychologically in the same place that Julie Harris's character ends when she's running into the fucking tree. Like she starts off full bore, like, well, when is this woman just going to jump off something, like, or cut her? Because, like, obviously there's something really wrong with her.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even feel like it's just, I'm lonely and awkward. It feels like, no, there's something else.
She's looking for something, searching for something, needs something.
I would say that is a fair assessment of Julie Harris's character. I think of Lily Taylor's character, she is searching for, I don't think she's searching for anything. I think she's deeply disturbed.
Okay.
Like, that's how it strikes me.
Okay, yeah.
It strikes me, like I said, like she feels like she walks into that house in the same psychological space that the Julie Harris's portrayal is in when she gets in her car and drives away from Hill House.
Yeah.
Like, she's already
already lost.
She's already decided
she's lost it before she gets there.
Yeah, she's already gone.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. Definitely.
I mean, it's hard for me to say because, like I said, I was always a big Lily Taylor fan. I couldn't like sit here and list every role she's ever done, but like I don't remember ever like hating her in anything except for this. I don't even hate her. I'm just like, what is she doing? What's happening?
Yeah. It was just the way she played Nell.
Yeah. There's a lot of overacting. It was really weird.
Do you think maybe that was like the time it was made or something?
No, because Catherine Zeta-Jones didn't do it. Of all people. But it was really weird. I don't know. I don't know if she was trying to kind of recreate the old 50s movie vibe type of thing where everything's kind of like, breathy and,
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah.
If that's what she was trying to do, I mean, yes, she did that, but I don't know that it worked.
But other than that, it just looked weird.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Now, I think for my money, Victoria Pedretti's performance, whether I agree or disagree with the characterizations or anything else, I thought her performance was great. I thought that like, again, if we're just talking about the series on its own terms, that character works great.
Yeah.
It works for the story that he is telling, but it's not really Eleanor Vance.
Yeah, I mean, and they're set up differently, so it's not even like, I mean, Eleanor doesn't even have the same history Eleanor in the movies doesn't have the same history as Eleanor in the miniseries.
Right, and she's like, so, I mean, she belongs to a stable family, I mean, well, to a point, but she's basically, everything that happens to her, like her downward spiral, Eleanor Vance in the book, it's really just because she's kind of been cloistered with her mother all these years.
Yes.
For Nell in the series, I mean, we have a bunch of tragedies here. Her mother's suicide. Her twin is a drug addict. Her husband dies suddenly and terribly right in front of her. She's been having this sleep paralysis demon coming to her since she was a child. And then, it ends with her, Eleanor Vance made the decision to become part of Hill House.
Yes.
To walk its halls. Nell Crane did not. She got tricked by her mother's ghost into killing herself.
Yes.
I mean, she did not make the choice voluntarily.
Nope, she did not.
And in fact, was suitably horrified when she realized what had happened. And I mean, I'll say this. I would say, I'm a youngest child in a very big family, like she was, like the Nell character in the Flanagan series was.
Yeah.
And there's a moment in there. It was during the Two Storms episode. And I think like this, I think this is a good thing though, because I think everybody watches this series and everybody gets something a little different from it, and I think that's good. And I can pick it apart all day, and I will. But I will say, during the Two Storms episode, so we are seeing. Basically, we're seeing Nell's wake, and her family comes to her wake. She's already dead by this point, and she's in her coffin, and there's a storm outside.
Yes.
And so it's going back and forth between this storm during Nell's wake and the storm that happened in the 90s when they were still living in Hill House. And they had lost Nell. Like, Nell disappeared. Like, they were all huddled around, like, the flashlights and stuff, and, like, at some point, it's like nobody could find Nell.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the episode, the lights come back on, everything. It's good. It's a great episode. It's like one of my favorites. But at the end of the episode, the whole family is like, okay, and they're leaving the funeral home. They're all together leaving the funeral home. And you get this flashback on Nell at the coffin, and then the Nell's ghost standing there next to the coffin. And she's watching her family leave, and she was like, I was right here, and you never saw me.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was like, it was like, there's a lot of layers to that, because it was the same thing that happened to her when she was a child during the storm. And it was this whole idea that, like, her ghost is still there with them, but they're just not seeing her. But it was like the little kid's voice that said, I was there the whole time, you just never saw me.
Yeah.
And I think growing up, if you grow up much younger, in a bigger family, and you're much younger, it was like I really, like, the first time I watched it, I was like, I felt that. I was like, I was always right there, you know, like, how did I ever get lost? How did, you know, like,
Yeah.
And I think that even though she had a twin, because they were kind of apart, you know, they were apart from the rest of the family.
Yeah.
And I think there was like, and then for her twin, as they grow older, for her twin to kind of spiral out and get lost in the drug addiction, it was like this kind of profound loneliness that I think that it's not the same kind of loneliness that Eleanor Vance in the book had, though. It was because she was always trying to reach out. Eleanor Vance in the book really wasn't.
Yeah.
She was just wondering why everybody didn't want to be her friends. You know?
Yeah.
So like, but it was a different. She was lonely by circumstance.
Yeah.
But I think Eleanor in the book is lonely. Like that's just her. That is her. You know.
Yeah.
She's almost like the avatar of loneliness. You know. Because you say, like, if they had never gone to Hill House, Nell in the series probably would have been completely normal and fine.
Maybe. I mean, the way her husband died was pretty tragic.
But he wouldn't even been her husband, because the whole reason they met was because she was been having these sleep problems because of Hill House, and that's how they met. She wouldn't have even married him probably. I mean, you know, like,
and maybe had a whole different type of life.
Right. Her whole life happened because of Hill House. Whereas Eleanor Vance in the book, her whole life kind of led up to Hill House.
Yeah.
You know? So, again, you know, I think it's just like, it is kind of like, with Nell, you're kind of like piling tragedies onto her, you know? Yes. And it kind of feels like just, I don't think she needed all this to go wrong, you know. Like,
it just kept happening.
Yeah, just trick her into the house, because that's really all you did at the end was just kind of trick her into the house.
Yep.
She didn't make that decision, you know. Like, that's the thing. She didn't make that decision. So all this other stuff was like, you didn't need it. You didn't need to do it.
Yeah.
You just wanted to make us cry, you know. I do thought it was interesting though when she goes at the very beginning, or I think it's the first episode. She goes to Hill House. She's been calling her whole family, and nobody's picking up, except her father, who realizes what she's going to do, but like he's across the country, he can't do anything.
Yeah.
But she pulls up to Hill House, and she goes in, and you get this. This is a little nod to the book, because it's obvious in the book where and Wybert Wise's movie, where Eleanor, you can see where her perceptions and her imagination and her, I don't know if fantasy is not the right word, but her understanding of what is happening in the world is kind of slipping over reality, and they're not quite meeting, and they're getting messed up, and it's like she has to keep reminding herself of what's really happening.
Yeah.
So in the series, you kind of get that when she walks into Hill House after having called her family. She walks into Hill House, which has been abandoned for 30 years, and we see this house. We see the house as it is, which is falling apart, and it's dusty and everything's broken. But she just sees it as she remembers it, which is it's beautiful and well lit, and her family is there, and her husband is there, and she and her husband have this. They're dancing through the halls of Hill House. She's obviously just dancing alone, though.
Yes.
Which is there's a scene in the book where she is dancing for Nell or Eleanor. It goes before this one room with this huge statue of Hugh Crane in it, and she starts dancing for it. She's dancing for Hugh Crane.
Yes.
She said, this is a very disturbing idea. Yes. I mean, like, she is, and it gives us a great picture of how insidious, how deep she's getting into this, how far away her mind is slipping.
Yeah, you can see how far she's slipped by this point.
Whereas in the series, it's just like she's just fucking sad and overwhelmed, and she misses her husband, and like it's not the same. Like, it's a sad scene, but it doesn't have the same. You're not getting the same effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, obviously this person has lost their grasp on reality, but we can already see from the calls she's made and stuff, this background we've seen up to that point, that it's just because, like, she's sad and
she's sad and lonely.
She's not being romanced by Hugh Crane or whatever. whatever is going on. She's not like she's just lost her grip on everything.
Yeah.
And she does, again, we get the scene where she realizes she does snap out of it, but it's too late to matter.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts about any version of Nell/Eleanor?
I like her. I feel like she's very, not a very personable person in the movies and the book. I think she was just, abused by her mom a lot.
Yeah.
But in the miniseries, Eleanor as a character was fine. She did have tragedies that she had to deal with that just kind of took over. But yeah, I mean, that's Eleanor in a nutshell.
Yeah, it felt like tragedy porn at some point, where it's just, we don't have to have like in the base core of that story that he was telling. I was like, the base core of the story that he was telling, that's pretty straight line of tragedy. You don't it's literally, you're just everything. You're thinking about every terrible thing that can happen to a person. And making sure it happens to at least one person all the time,
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't say anything about this, but Eleanor feels like that she did her mother wrong because her mother used the cane to knock on the wall to get Eleanor to come in there the night that she died, and Eleanor didn't go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, she finally had enough of her shit and was like, no, I'm not going in. Well, she probably would have died anyway.
Yeah, but still,
she's never.
She carries that guilt now.
Right. Yeah, which is it. I think that's interesting too. Is the idea of like in the book and the other movies, like there's a very we can call it abuse or whatever, but there's a very specific way in which her mother and hers relationship is not great. Whereas in the series, like Nella has a pretty good relationship with her mother until her mother goes crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, not through any fault of anybody except for like whatever the house is doing to people. I do want to talk about, I think probably my favorite character, and it's amazing to me because this character is I think the most consistent character through every iteration is Theo.
Oh yeah.
I think Theo so Theo she changes, but it's like the 63 in 1963, that version of Theo is what you would expect from reading the book. Yes. And then in 1999, that is like that's what Theo would have been like if she had been that age in 1999. Yeah. And in 2018, same thing. So it's like the Theo she is consistently characterized, which is a choice. I think it's an interesting choice, but it's kind of impressive that is the character that remains the most consistent throughout every version.
Yes. And she really does. I mean, she's very consistent. She's very almost the same mannerisms, the same tone.
Yeah, it's the same kind of
it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of like using the cosmopolitanism to kind of mask some deeper insecurities, She's very what's the word I'm looking for? The way she interacts with Eleanor in the movies and the book, it's like, and everybody has had a friend like this where it's like, are you fucking with me, or like, are you being nice to me, or are you just like, what are you doing? I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, because she's like very, very flirty and very over the top. And
right, and and you've got the danger there in the book, which is somebody like Eleanor, who's doesn't have a lot of experience with people, takes it all to heart, and was like, well, I'm gonna move in with you when we leave Hill House, and Theo's like, no, you're not.
No.
Oh,
yeah,
that is not going to happen, ma'am. Luke, I mean, like I said, I love Ross Tamblyn. I thought that was great casting. Look, in Yonda Bonds, it's Owen Wilson. It's like somebody told Owen Wilson, say, don't Owen Wilson it up too much.
Yeah.
And he went in there and he mostly didn't Owen Wilson, but every once in a while he's like, I'm Owen Wilsoning it too much, so I gotta dial back the Owen Wilson. Like, that's what it felt like.
okay.
Like, oh, I'm being Owen Wilson again. No, stop, I'm not supposed to be Owen Wilson.
I mean, I felt like in the movies that Luke was just unnecessary, and
he was an important character. Like, they couldn't be there except that he was there. He had to be there. Like, Shirley Jackson had a reason that the Luke character was there. And Theo needed somebody to flirt with.
Well, I mean, you've said it all. He was necessary in the miniseries for a couple different reasons.
A character named Luke was necessary in the miniseries.
Okay.
Not this character.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But, like, I felt like in the movie, he was supposed to be the next heir, and I didn't feel like he really cared about that house at all.
He wanted to make it into a nightclub. He didn't give a shit.
He was going to party it up, and booze, hooks.
Yeah, he was going to have girls
I don't know.
dancing in the corner and stuff.
What about putting girls on the spiral staircase and they can kick down? Just a thought. But I mean, he was there. He was a character. He was a little. I can't think of the word for it. When chauvinistic, he was a little chauvinistic towards Theo with some of the remarks he said. But
I mean, that's
just me. So I mean.
You gotta understand, like, the original book is written in 1959.
Yeah.
That is exactly how a dude like that would have acted.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are my issues. Yeah. But I understand why he was in each one and the casting for each one. But to me, Luke was just, he was there.
Yeah. Like I said, like in the series, there was a character named Luke. It had nothing to do with the Shirley Jackson character named Luke.
Nope. Luke was totally different. Yeah. The miniseries Luke was needed for many reasons.
It was needed.
But it was a totally different character and separated apart from what the movie did.
Right. Yeah. I do like, there's some parts in that, the Twin Thing episode, which is the episode, because each episode kind of showcases a different character, and the Twin Thing kind of showcased Luke. And I think the performance where he is either the Twin Thing, the urban, well, I don't know if it's an urban legend or it's a real thing, where twins can kind of feel each other's discomfort or pain. And by this point, he doesn't know it. He doesn't know that his sister has hung herself.
Yeah.
But he wakes up in the middle of the night with neck pain, and then throughout the following day, he feels his everything starting to hurt and get cold, and which we know, well, that makes sense because she's hung.
Yeah.
But it's really like his performance there, and then his performance there, and the whole thing with he's being stalked by what we think at first is the tall man ghost that scared him when he was a boy, and then we realize later is actually his mother, his mother's ghost or whatever. Like, it's a really good, I think in that episode I always think of it as his episode. It's good because it's just, I think it's a good episode. It's a great episode, and I think it relied heavily on his convincing performance.
Yes. Yes.
So that's what I'll say about that. I can like I said, I can say that this is not the Luke in the from the novel, and it's not, but it's still a compelling character.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about Olivia and Ukraine. I don't know. This is a choice because in the book and in the movies, we're very clear that Ukraine is a monster.
Yes.
Like, whether it's his fault that Hill House is haunted or Hill House is just born bad and made him that way, we don't know. But he's a bad dude.
Yes.
He's at the very least a control freak.
Yes.
At the very least. And he to the point, but in the DeBont version, he's an out and out, unrepentant child abuser.
Yes.
But in the miniseries or in the Flanagan series, it's like he's just a dad, and he's trying to do this thing for his family, and maybe he's working too hard, and in the end, he panicked, and he may or may not have handled the situation the best, but it's not because he handled it because he truly thought that this was the best way to protect his children, was by he knew that his wife had just killed herself in a terrible way, and he's like, and there's ghosts everywhere at that point. So he's like, get the kids out of the fucking house and just, come up with any kind of story to make this less traumatic for them.
Yes.
So he's not at all like the Hugh Crane of the fucking.
No, he's not.
Yeah,
he's not. But I like the way they did that. I like the way they told it.
Yeah.
I mean, I did. Like, they make Hugh Crane look like a total and complete monster. And especially the first movie.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that first movie. Yeah. Well, the second movie is when he was keeping kids from the shirt factory as slaves or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why all the carvings.
That was like everything in the DeBont version. That was like comically evil.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
Like, yeah, I feel like Jan DeBont was just taking the piss with that movie. Just, I don't know. But yeah. So the Hugh Crane of the Flanagan series was not the Hugh Crane of the books at all.
No.
Now Olivia Crane is, I guess we're supposed to understand her as some kind of. She's weird because she's some kind of amalgam of like this. The two Mrs. Cranes, or at least two of the Mrs. Cranes from the book, right? The second and third Mrs. Crane. Maybe in the first one, I don't know. She's like all the Mrs. Cranes smushed together with like a little drop of the original Eleanor in her. It's a very strange character. It's good, like I said again, it's a good character, and but if you're like reading it or you're watching this character in the context of Hill House, it's like this is like all the Mrs. Cranes. But like, how I think it's interesting that her character, the Olivia character, fixates on the children, on protecting the children, the way that the Eleanor character does in the book. At that point when Eleanor has her long night and she thinks that a child is being harmed, and she goes out like, I'll let you do anything, but you can't harm a child. Yeah. Like, so kind of the Olivia character in the Flanagan series kind of takes that characteristic on, ultimately becomes her undoing. Yeah. But she does also, though, so she keeps talking about waking up. Like, she's like, I just need to wake up. Like her migraines throughout the series, she has migraines. And she sees colors with her migraines. And at some point, they get progressively worse. At some point, she doesn't see any colors anymore. She's blackness. Yeah. And they're getting worse and worse. And near the end, she starts talking about, I just need to wake up. She thinks that like her regular life is a dream and she just needs to wake up. And that's ultimately when she steps off the balcony next to the spiral stairs. Like that's her, like, I guess, attempting to wake up. Yeah. But this does actually kind of makes sense with, it kind of meshes with the Eleanor in the book, her progression of kind of losing track of reality. It kind of matches up with Olivia's kind of slow slide into like, I guess I'm dreaming and just, I need to wake up. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. But again, it's like, why? It's not even about a new perspective on Hill House anymore. It's just about kind of taking the book and tearing it up and throwing it in a bag and then dropping it on the floor and like just picking pieces up and putting them together in random places. Yeah. It's just I'm going to take this piece and this piece and this piece. Okay. I mean, but you couldn't you have characterized these people independently of all this though? Yeah. Here's okay. This is where I think my patience. This is like the thing that every rewatch I do of The Haunting of Hill House, the Flanagan series, I like. It's just like I've gotta put this to the side, otherwise I will just lose myself. So we have Stephen and Shirley, the remaining Crane siblings in the Flanagan miniseries that appear nowhere in the books or the other movies. Well, for one reason is because Shirley. Oh, isn't that a cute reference to Shirley Jackson? I'm sure that her ghost appreciates that. And Stephen, isn't that Stephen who writes stories about haunted houses? That's what made him very popular, even though he's a serious writer. Does that sound like anybody you know? Oh, you know who that sounds like? It sounds like the writer character in 1408, which was a short story course written by Stephen King. I mean, it's shameless. I hate it. It's why? It's disgusting. It's like, I mean, I get he's your bud or whatever, and I get that, you know, you don't want to have like another original thought without him, but come on, man, like seriously, why are we
stealing from him?
Why, he's not stealing from him. He's just like, he's friends with him now, so he's just like, I mean, just like stop. Like, it's very obvious. It is very obvious that the series has nothing to do with Shirley Jackson's book. So, like, why you decide to name a character Shirley, I don't know. But, like, come, like, just stop. It's not even cute. It's just, with everything, it's just not even cute anymore, you know? Anyway. So I do want to talk about the Stephen character. He is completely unnecessary. He's unpleasant. He's the most annoying character in the series. He's taken it upon himself to narrate everything because he wrote a book about the haunted house he grew up as a kid or whatever.
And he's never seen a ghost.
Ghost, which we find out is bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, he just didn't realize it was a ghost or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just the character's unpleasant. I guess we're not supposed to like him at first or whatever, but, like, he's just really, like, do we not? I mean, we don't even need him. We don't need him. Just tell the story. Do you have to have a framer? I mean, we don't even need the character. Like, you could have taken everything about Stephen out, and Shirley too, but I like the Shirley character. I just didn't like the Stephen character. I just didn't like it. It just felt very gratuitous. Like I said, Shirley, we didn't really need the Shirley character. But if we had her, fine. Okay. Yeah. I like the character. I like the character. Okay. What I did not like about Shirley, I got two things to say here. So Shirley decided, we learned that Shirley is she runs a funeral home.
Yes.
And we learned that she got into this business because, well, she had some experiences at Hill House with some kittens. I don't think we're not supposed to believe that was her inspiration. We're supposed to believe that her inspiration for getting into the funeral home business was when her mother died, when her mother jumped off the balcony by the staircase. It basically destroyed her face, you know. So they put her, you know, the mortician patched her up, put her back together, made her look beautiful. And Shirley was young Shirley at the time was very impressed by this. And was like, oh, you know, wow, you know, she looks good. And that's like the thing that got her into mortuary sciences or whatever. I'm like, oh, where have I heard this before? This seems very familiar. Even the walk up to the casket. Where is this? Oh yeah, Rico from 6 Feet Under. This is exactly why Rico from 6 Feet. It's exactly why Rico from 6 Feet Under became a mortician or got into mortuary sciences, because his father's head got destroyed, and the Fishers, Mr. Fisher, Nate Fisher, did the reconstruction, and it looked really good. And Rico was so impressed that's how. I mean, just stop. But anyway. I like the Shirley character. There's a subplot with the Shirley character where we keep seeing this random man in places where there should not be anybody. And
holding a drink. Yeah.
Holding a drink. You give it to her like, well, hey, come get a drink. We find out near the end that it's she had an affair. You know, for 6 years previously or whatever. She had some mortician convention. You know, this guy was married too, so like it was okay because like nobody's going to tell anybody's spouse or whatever. Anyway, I don't know. I scratched my head this whole thing, like why is Shirley having an affair? Why did we give her this baggage? Because all the Crane siblings had baggage, you know. Luke, but they were all okay. So Luke had his drug addiction, but that was like a direct response to the things that had happened to him in the house.
Yes.
Mostly the tall man, right? Nell had her everything. But Nell had been suffering from sleep paralysis. And we find out, you know, in the Bent Neck Lady episode, it was basically her own death was haunting her.
Yeah.
But again, that's directly related to the house. It was directly because of the house.
Yes.
we have Theo, who her problem was, so she was, I guess that she was born, it ran in the family. She was kind of born sensitive with, she could touch things, but her, you know, after her experiences at Hill House where she could touch things and everything was terrible, like, that's why she kind of got to be like this stoic, kind of standoffish, build a wall type person. You know, it was all everything. And even Stephen with his, like, I don't believe in anything, I'm just this, you know, it was all of it all goes back to Hill House. Yes. Shirley, they actually set up a story for Shirley where she had this experience where she had found some kittens in like, I think they were supposed to be stables or something.
Yeah.
And she found these kittens. And
oh no, it was like a storage area.
A storage area. And there's like this weird hornet's nest and stuff.
Yeah.
But then she found these kittens. And she brought them, they said she could bring them in the house, and all the kittens ended up dying. But while she had the kittens, she kept having weird visions with like shit crawling out of their mouths. And it was really weird.
It was creepy.
It was creepy. So she had this traumatic event. And then she had this thing with her mother that caused her to go into mortician sciences. But I'm like, so Shirley has plenty of baggage caused by the house that, you know, can be parlayed into this other subplot like everybody else had. Why is she having this affair? Why did we do this to this character?
I have no idea.
Why?
Yeah. It was kind of weird.
Yeah. It was like,
it's just that look you gave me.
It was, and it seemed from, you know, I'm not even going to pretend that we got a whole lot of deep characterization on anybody, but to the extent that we did get any deep characterization of Shirley, her having an affair seemed completely out of character.
Yeah, it did. It wasn't something that the character, the way she acted and stuff would have done. Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I feel like I don't like the idea of like I don't like the idea of, especially a character that you didn't need, making characters just to do things. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that like all these characters in particular, they are symptomatic of my problem with the series, which is, again, it's the kitchen sink stuff. I think telling the Crane backstory would have been fine. Doing a modern version of it, making tweaks and stuff, like, you don't want to tell a straight story, I get that, you know, that's fine. But these sidelines, like Shirley and Stephen in general, Shirley's affair, it doesn't add anything. I mean, and I feel like he never commits to what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Which, let's get, speaking of things that can't commit to what's actually going on, let's talk about the Dudleys.
Mrs. Dudley is creepy. She likes to say,
in the night, in the dark.
In the night. She tells them, I leave after I put out.
I don't clear off after dinner.
I don't clear off after dinner. I leave. I serve dinner at the sidebar at 6, and then I leave. I cannot be here after dark.
Yep.
I cannot be here in the night.
In the dark.
In the dark. And
town's 9 miles away. Nobody's coming.
Yeah, nobody's coming. Nobody comes closer than town.
In the night, in the dark.
If something happens in the night, in the dark, nobody will come. You will be alone in the night, in the dark. Yeah, that's Miss Dudley. That's all you need to know.
I need to tell you that
in the night, in the dark, there is no Dudley.
I love every version of Mrs. Dudley.
Yeah, but that was.
I love In the Night, in the Dark. We can make fun of In the Night, in the Dark, and I think it's funny. But I do think in the moment when you're watching any of the movies or the series, whenever she does that in the night, in the dark, you're like, oh man, that's.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I watched it in. Okay, so a normal person would watch it in order. Not me.
No, yeah.
I watched the second movie first, and then I watched the miniseries, and then I came back to the original, all while reading the book. Have to tell you, Miss Dudley was the one person I could count on to have at least the same line every time I encountered her.
Yeah, I know. I said Theo was the one that... No, Mrs. Dudley never changed.
No, never. In the night, in the dark. Nobody will come.
Actually, that's a lie. She did change a little bit, but we'll get to that. Okay, so I think the Yonda the Mrs. Dudley and the Yonda I think she was it was straight. She felt like she was playing it pretty straight, but like maybe a little campy, or maybe everything around her was a little campy, so it made her seem a little campy. I don't know.
She was just...
Anyway, let's talk about Annabeth Gish, because she's the version of Mrs. Dudley that is the most different from the other Mrs. Dudleys in the Flanagan series. So at several point in the series, she is, and I feel, okay, this is a thing, as somebody who writes stories, I feel like this is the type of thing you do. It's a tendency, you want to keep things kind of symmetrical. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you keep things symmetrical, and you're so obsessed with keeping a thing symmetrical for narrative purposes that they stop serving their narrative purpose, and you get kind of sidetracked just with making it symmetrical, like book ending or whatever. And I think here we did that with Mrs. Dudley. She keeps giving the children things from the house. So she gives Nell the cup of stars. I will come back to the cup of stars. She gives Theo the gloves, or they find the gloves in the house, and Theo, and then she gives Stephen the vanity, and she lets Luke have the bowler hat, and like the whole kitten thing with Shirley and stuff. Okay, so I'm like, Mrs. Dudley, who for all her in the night in the dark stuff, is being very generous with like stuff from the house, like letting kids play with it and stuff. Why are you?
But that's all in the series.
That's all in the series, which is, it's weird that, like, this seems, is it, are we to believe that the house is, like, playing tricks on Mrs. Dudley to make her, like, yeah, go ahead, like, that's the house's suggestion, like, yeah, it's okay, yeah, let her have the couple stars, or whatever. Yeah. I get the symbolism is clumsy, yes, we get it, they're all taking a piece of the house with, like, okay, it's fine. It just seems like Mrs. Dudley is not the character that should be doing this. For all of her, I clear off at 6. I do not come back until I put breakfast on at 9, and
Yeah.
In the night, in the dark, nobody can hear you scream.
I put breakfast on at 9. I clear at 10.
But here, kid, have this little cup and this bowl. I mean, I don't know. Now there is this scene between Mrs. Dudley and Olivia. And it seems to be one of the things that pushes Olivia's last button here. Because it's this whole thing about keeping your kids safe from the world.
Yes.
Which is something that after this kind of, it's been building up in Olivia, and then after this conversation, Olivia really latches onto it. And it's her undoing, and Mrs. Dudley's talking about her own child. That they don't even, like, they homeschool her, they don't let her leave the house. I mean, like, it's crazy. Yeah. And it's like, I understand how this spun out Olivia, right? I get that. And I understand how it applied to the Dudleys' own concerns, because they didn't want their kid in Hill House in the night, in the dark, or any other time. What I'm not sure I understand is why Mrs. Dudley framed it the way she did. Like, was she not at all aware of how it sounded? Like, you've been warning this woman about this house this whole time. Yeah. And now you're like, well, what do you think she's going to do to protect him from the world? She's not going to let him out of the house. Like, what else would the solution be? What are you trying to tell her?
Yeah. I mean, I think in a way she was trying to tell her to get out.
Well, that you'd have to go into the world to get out.
Okay, get into a normal place and then protect your children.
I mean, I don't know. I thought the conversation, again, it was just like, this is a weird time to kind of spread Mrs. Dudley's wings here.
I don't know. My luck, you put my child in that house and
stuff would happen.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to Mrs. Dudley because, as different as she was in the book. I like her. But I think her character is understated. The importance is understated in the series. It's the most important that Mrs. Dudley is ever in any of the iterations. But I want to first talk about the decision to make her openly religious in the series. But they did this in Let Me In too. They took somebody who was not openly religious, the mother. They took somebody who was not, she was strongly characterized. She was not openly religious and Let the Right One In. Mrs. Dudley, who was creepy and shit in the book, She's creepy and foreboding in the book and all the other movies. Okay. I feel like the decision to make her open religious is a problem. Well, it's not a problem. It's a choice that I wonder about because it does a couple of things. It kind of the idea of using somebody who, whatever your feelings are, religion, whether you're atheist or you have, you subscribe to any kind of religion or spirituality, that's not the point. It's the idea of defaulting to making a foreboding, overbearing person openly religious and scolding children with church verses and things. I don't know why that choice was made. You had a very convincing character. You didn't need to do it. It's the same thing like Let the Right One In. Like she was just a drunk and confused single mother. Did the Jesus stuff, does it matter? I mean, why?
Yeah.
And I like, and Let the Right One In, or when they didn't let me in, I'm like, oh, it feels like they're just kind of like making it a little more American. I don't understand why they would do that here, because Hill House is an American novel. But anyway, it also does this thing where it's like, you cannot conceive of, like, you're bringing it in, like, because we can't have this discussion or even the implication of, like, things being inherently good or inherently evil or whatever they are, whatever we're trying to figure out about this house, whatever the implications of everything that's happening is. We can't have that without having this established reference to a religious context. Why is that, though? The novel did it very successfully. There was no reference to anything at all.
No, there wasn't.
Yeah, I don't. It just, again, it feels kind of like a fallback. There's certain writers that always have a crazy religious person, and that person is always like the stand-in for why everything goes wrong. And it feels like you're doing that, but it feels like that's what's happening here, except that you can't really do that with Mrs. Dudley because she's actually being helpful.
Well, hell, I mean, yeah.
I mean, it just feels like a kind of lazy. Well, why? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She's got her line in the night in the dark. That's all she needs. She doesn't mean like, look, Jesus saw you take that cup of stars. We don't need any of that.
Okay.
I don't know. It's I put this in my notes as like, what a waste of characterization capital. Like, if you're going to spend time characterizing people, why would you do it? Why would you choose to add this touch to this character who's already like solid? This character is solid,
I get that, yeah.
I guess, in the book, Hugh Crane was kind of like, he had that weird little Bible guide or whatever that he made for his kids. But I'm like, we were not to understand that as like, Hugh Crane's a good Christian. We were to understand that as Hugh Crane has issues.
Hugh Crane thought he was God.
He thought
he was Jesus to his children.
Yeah, Hugh Crane was not a good dude. Anyway, I want to talk about Mrs. Dudley like that because, like I said, he changed the Dudley character a little bit. He softened her a little bit. But then he would get this Poppy person, Poppy the talkie ghost, I call her.
Poppy was like, she made me feel very, like, as she came more into view in the series, she was,
So, Poppy, who is clearly, we don't know, did she have mental problems in life? I think we were led to believe that. Has the house, since she died, made her even more, she's not sane. As they say about Hill House, not sane. Like, Poppy, not sane. She's not. My problem with Poppy is just having a talking ghost stalking Olivia is weird, because I feel like Mrs. Dudley, a few things have already happened with Olivia. Mrs. Dudley has already had this fucked up conversation with her. Yes. She's already having visions of her two youngest children dead in a morgue. She's already having these terrible dark migraines and stuff. There's enough going on right here. Do we need this muttering ghost in there to put her over the edge?
No, I think she's already going.
She's already going, and again, we're going to talk about this in the end. It reminds me of a certain other talkie ghost in a certain other haunted place movie. but we'll talk about it. That talks at a character who's clearly falling apart, talks at them until they fall all the way apart.
Yeah.
But we didn't need it. I feel like we didn't need it, and I feel like, again, kitchen sink. We just put this ghost in there, and it also muddies the backstory to the backstory. So we're talking about the Cranes are the backstory, but now we have this other backstory of Poppy and who else? Some old lady. It's never clear.
The old lady was
It was like her mother-in-law.
It was like some kind of a mother, yeah. And I think Poppy took care of her at one point.
I mean, yeah. So again, we're telling all these. We're just kind of telling this. We're just getting all these storylines muttered. We have this Poppy storyline. We don't need. We're already telling the backstory. We don't need this Poppy stuff. We can leave it vague.
Yes.
We can leave it like this question, like this vague dark past of Hill House or whatever, if we want to.
Yeah.
And then the whole idea of like the house, is it the house that's the problem? Is it Hill House or is it Poppy? What's the problem?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're losing sight. We want to do everything, and in doing everything, we're not doing anything.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, like with in Nell in the book, there's no ghost talking to Nell in the book. I mean, she hears voices. She doesn't hear words. She just, I don't know. It just feels like, so that's what, in the Robert Weiss movie, when you just had the voices and the giggling. Like, that was very effective. We didn't need an actual full-bodied ghost there talking to anybody.
Yeah.
You could have done something like that with Olivia, and I think it would have worked,
Yeah. It probably would have, just the way the Olivia character was.
Yeah. I think, so, talking about this backstory. So the backstory is of the novel. I mean, we do end up getting some closer glimpses into Hugh Crane and stuff, but we never really know the truth.
Nope.
And it's in the grand tradition of most Gothic ghost stories, where you have this kind of vaguely unsettling backstory, but it's enough to leave the truth up to everybody's imagination.
Yeah.
Which is, it's just vague enough to be unsettling, because they know if there is one thing that holds true in horror, and it holds true, and I don't care and I know people will say, well, this is a true thing about horror, and then they go ahead and they violate the rule. But there's one thing about horror, is that there is nothing that a person can write, there is nothing that a filmmaker can show you that is going to scare you more than what you have built up in your mind to be behind that door. Or around that corner, in that dark corner. Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft, I have issues with him, but he understood that.
Yeah.
Like, don't show the monster. As soon as you show the monster,
you're done.
It's done. And that's what this whole thing feels like. So, Robert Wise understood this. The Bond, I feel like, you're talking, like, he just couldn't. He was just telling you. I mean, it wasn't even like he was telling you everything, but he was just like, look at my graphics. Like, just look at my visual effects here. Like, just look at it. Yeah. But Flanagan, he's telling us the story. He's telling the story of the Cranes, which means we have this void where the backstory should be. And we get Poppy and all that. I like I said, you could have stuck with the house is just bad.
Yeah.
But now we get this. This feels like this really trite mishmash of bad behavior. There's bootleggers, and there's sick mothers, and there's murder, and there's crazy kid. I mean, like it's just, like, I just, like, it's too much. It's the exact opposite of the way Jackson told the story.
Yeah, it is.
So, like I said, it's a lot of kitchen sink stuff. I think it just kind of muddies things, and I think it's stuff that doesn't need to be said. I think you have a compelling story. He's telling a compelling story, and he's just muddying the waters with it. Especially because at this point, none of this matters. Yeah,
it doesn't. Like, Mr. and Mrs. Dudley in the miniseries doesn't really matter. They don't really...
Well, but they do.
For the little things that Mrs. Dudley does, yes.
I mean, they matter, but I think they matter, and they do. He does something different with the Dudleys. I don't mind him keeping the Dudleys. I don't even mind him changing her characterization. But I think all this stuff with Poppy and all this backstory getting muddled up with the old, like all of it is just. It's just, I just don't know. I don't understand why it's all there.
Yeah.
None of it contributes.
Yeah, I agree with that, with the Poppy part. Yeah. Because she doesn't contribute. She wasn't in the movie, so why put her in this? Like, what does she really do for anything?
I mean, I think you've already, his choices with Mrs. Dudley, I think making the choices he did with Mrs. Dudley is fine, but it means you don't need Poppy.
Yeah.
And then you chose to tell a backstory, so you don't need another backstory, but if you're going to tell another backstory, does it really need to be this, oh, there were bootleggers? And
yeah, you don't need all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's also kind of vague, but in a bad way. Like, there's the vague of like, oh, this is all kind of vaguely sinister, and it could blah blah. But then there's just like, oh, there was like bootleggers and cranky old ladies. Oh, spooky.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But again, we get into a thing where it's like, oh, this reminds me of something else. But
yeah,
we'll talk about it. I guess that brings me to, I think, something I keep coming back to. I've alluded to it a few times while we've been talking about this. And Nell at the end, it's apparent throughout the series. And then Nell at the end gives a speech when her ghost is in the room of requirement with her siblings and her dying twin and her other siblings, and they all kind of it's, if you have somebody in your life that passes and they're basically telling her all the things they wish they had said to her before she had died, but like, I'm sorry we fought, I'm sorry I didn't answer the phone, blah blah blah. And then, hey, I love this scene. And she goes on and tells them, it's neat because at the very beginning of the scene, she's kind of just saying random words and she's like walking backwards and weird and stuff. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? But then after they do all this apologizing stuff, she gives a speech and it's the same stuff she was saying before, but it's now in order in a way that makes sense. And so she's saying, because I think Theo's like, well, I'm sorry that the last time we talked, we fought. And I was like, but it wasn't the last time we talked. And she's explaining to them the way like time works. Like time isn't just like a line. It's, there are moments that are all around us all the time. And it's like confetti, like just falling around us like confetti.
And that's when you kind of find out that the room of requirement, as you like to call that, how that room played out with everybody, too.
This is where she explains that it was a different room for all of them, and it was to keep them still while the house ate them.
Yeah, because, I mean, at one point, Steve is like, well, I used to always have to go get Luke from the treehouse.
And his father's like, well, treehouse?
What treehouse are you talking about? I didn't have time to build you a treehouse. I was trying to renovate this house.
Right.
And it all kind of comes together, and they all realize that this one room they wanted into, they got into when they needed it the most.
And it was to keep them, as Nels explains, it was to keep them still and quiet and distracted.
Yep.
And then she says to them, it says, look, I will complain about, I'll nitpick, but I always still love this line. She's like, you loved me completely and I loved you the same. And that's all, the rest is confetti. It's a great line.
It is a great line.
But it emphasizes the fact that what this really, look, narratively, I mean, thematically, it's about grief. We all, it's very obvious that this whole thing is about grief. And, there's there's something to be said here about untreated mental illness and things like that. And different types of child abuse, like what was readily identifiable in the previous movies as Hugh Crane's child abuse. Like, well, there's different types of child abuse. There's things that like just neglect sometimes,
Yeah. And I mean, and it brings on another story for the Dudleys too. The miniseries does, because she homeschools her child. She doesn't let her out or anything. But the room of requirement for Nell
is a tea room.
Right. And Luke
Luke brings the Dudley's daughter there one night.
Yeah.
And then Olivia, who is trying to protect her children, she doesn't want to let her, she's decided the only way to make sure her children don't go into the world is to kill them.
Which is weird because they thought this friend of Luke's was an imaginary
right,
friend.
It's not,
It's a real person.
Right. Who we see at a few points haunting the house too. But, so we did need the Dudleys, and we, for the purposes of the story that he was trying to tell. But, and then that becomes important at the end because Hugh and the Dudleys make a deal that explains why Hill's house is still there but not being tended to. But what this little speech by Nell does, besides giving us the actual mechanics of what was going on the whole time, is it puts a really fine point on something that's just we've kind of seen bits and pieces of throughout with like the backwards writing, and there's a scene where Olivia opens the door and she sees the morgue where Nell, the adult Nell, has been laid out, which obviously she shouldn't be able to see, so it's like, so now we know like time is not aligned, time is working in different ways in the house, just in general,
Yeah.
And this is a good concept, and Nell kind of spells it out. Like, this is like, not, time is not moving in a line, it's just all around us all the time, It's a good concept. It's not that it's never been done before, it has been done before, but this would have been, if this had been the focal point, if this had been the driving narrative. And there's this, I did mention, there's also this thing, that Stephen always says, I never saw a ghost. And he's on his way to Hill House when they realize that Luke has gone to Hill House to destroy it. He and his father are on their way there, and his father's like, no, you did see a ghost. It was the watch, or the clock repair guy. There's a grandfather clock on the staircase. There's always, every time when they're doing these flashbacks, you always see this old-timey guy with this handlebar mustache fixing this grandfather clock, and Luke or Stephen saw him too, and Mr. Crane's like, I never hired anybody to come fix that clock.
Yep.
And he goes to this thing where he explains the witness marks and stuff, and it's like, okay, that's all very interesting, and I'm like, it's one of those things like, I know where you're going with this, and I know what you were trying to do, but like, there's just like, it was not a 5-minute monologue for the witness marks.
Yeah, because it was like the clock guy. He's not the only one who saw him. Like, Steve's mom saw him
Everybody
too,
saw him.
And everybody had seen him at different times standing on that staircase. But then, like, when you get towards the end of this, and they're in the house trying to find Luke, the big tall man with the hat. Mm-hmm. Comes, and he's like right up next to Steven's face, and his dad is like, just look at me,
yeah.
And it's like you can see his hair move and the guy's breath and stuff, and I thought the way that was done was really kind of cool, because it proves that Steven's seen ghosts throughout his life and he just didn't even know it, and now he's confronted with one, and you see the fear.
Right, he can't deny it anymore.
Yeah.
But well, we'll see at the end what he decides to do. But like, going back to my point is, so, like this time thing, this whole idea of like the flexibility of time, that time's just kind of moving around us in a way that we don't exactly grasp. And this is the weirdness of time is something like, this is, a lot of people, when they talk about like paranormal stuff, they're like, well, this is just like time slips or something. Like, a haunting is just, two timelines overlapping or so, like stuff like that. Like, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Or the idea of like, the whole idea behind the bent neck lady of like, basically a person's obsessions call it, like, your inability to cope with reality is that you're undoing, that, like, but the whole idea of like you being able to affect your own past and things like that, like narratively. So thematically, we're talking about grief and mental illness and child abuse and stuff, but narratively, we can lean heavily, I think, on like this bendy time thing, this weird time being weird, and what are hauntings really but time being weird, and you can still make that spooky until you all kind of figure out what's really happening. Yeah. I mean, everything's spooky until you figure out what's really happening, but he doesn't do that. he lays all this stuff about it all over it's all over the place. It's references all over the place, but then you don't do anything with it except this pretty speech at the end. Like, you don't commit to it. You want, well, I could have time being weird, that would be good, but then I could also have bootlegger ghosts and flapper ghosts, and then I could also have a person with crazy migraines, and then I could, like, no, focus, pick something.
Yeah.
You know, what's the story you're trying to tell? What's the story you want us to take away from this, besides this nebulous fairy tale about grief? Because that's what every horror movie does now.
Yeah.
Oh, this is about grief. Yeah, I know. I know it's about grief. You know? And, yeah, you know, again, we get like jump scares and all this stuff, and it's just, I don't know. I want to get into this because we'll get into it. Like, I feel like The Haunting of Hill House, the Shirley Jackson novel, she took old tropes from the great tradition of haunted house stories and ghost stories, gothic ghost stories, and she reworked them, and she made them into something different and something that could be used a little in different ways and more powerfully, and like the voices in the other room, or the doorknob that moves and the doors opening and stuff like that. She turns it into this kind of like a more deeply psychological terror, but she's still using these tropes.
Yeah.
Which is fine. And like the movies that adopt her, the adaptations, the wise adaptations, even the demonic adaptations, like, they understand what these things are. They understand that these are tropes that she has reappropriated to this other end from what they're usually used for. And she's used it to tell this story. And they're doing their own version of that. They're like, okay, but they understand, so like these things we keep seeing throughout. Well, like the things that are consistent. Like, those are the things that everybody understands. Like, these can be used effectively to create this atmosphere. That's why everybody uses them.
Yes.
Flanagan says, oh yeah, I'm going to get clever with some of these tropes too. But what he does is he just takes these things that Shirley Jackson basically reimagined and he takes them and he says, I'm going to reimagine them myself. But then he takes them and he picks them up, and somehow he ends up a step behind Shirley Jackson.
Yeah.
With all of it.
Yes.
Like, showing us ghosts and jump scares and all that. I'm like, that is not what was happening in The Haunting of Hill House.
No.
And that's what I think is what frustrates me about the series.
I mean, I think the biggest jump scare you get in Hill House is...
I know which one it is for me.
It's in the second making of it. I'm not sure what year that was. I'm sorry.
99?
Yes. And they're standing in the fireplace, and Nell swears she saw something in the fireplace. And so the doctor and Luke are standing in the fireplace, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this huge thing we've talked about in the fireplace.
It looks like a clock pendulum, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's got a huge head on it,
It's got like a huge head on it, yes.
It almost looks like a huge lion's head to match the doorknobs.
Yeah.
But it does. It swings like a pendulum. It's just all of a sudden you hear a creak, and then you see it come, and the doctor moves, and Luke's head gets taken off.
I mean,
I was not expecting that. It wasn't a huge jump scare, but I didn't expect it. But when his head rolled off, that was great.
That cannot be. It is not possible that is a bigger jump scare than Theo and Shirley in the car and Nell just popping out between them.
Oh yeah, that was so great. Yeah, that was in the mini-series.
I have watched that series several times. I know it is coming, and every time it gets me.
I have to tell you, we were watching the mini-series together, and it happened. I screamed. She kind of jumped a little bit, but she knew it was coming.
And I still jumped.
I did not. Like, I have vague memories of when this miniseries came out, and watching it then, I did not remember a lot of it. So, like, I'm just sitting there watching, and I'm like, oh. And then all of a sudden that happened, and that scared the crap out of me. But for the movies, the pendulum thing, but for the miniseries, that one was by far, that's probably the biggest jump scare I've gotten out of any movie recent or anything recently.
Yeah.
Like, even when we saw weapons, they didn't have anything
any
big.
jump scares in weapons.
Yeah. You know, and my big thing is I love jump scares. I'm usually ready for them. I'm usually like, oh, something's about to happen. And then it happens. I'm like, oh.
I don't automatically dismiss jump scares. I think if you're going to do one, make it count and don't depend on it.
Exactly.
So we did this jump scare with Nell in the car. Great. We don't need any more. That was a good one.
Yeah,
that was a doozy. You don't need any more.
Yeah, it was a doozy.
Jump scares, like, by their nature, like, the more you do them, the less effective they are.
Yes.
You know.
But that was a good one. That was so unexpected. I mean, they're just in the car
Just
on the way
talking.
to the house. They're arguing, and it's just out of nowhere. Nell's face just comes in between them and screams. And it's like, my take from it, after my heart rate calmed down, was that she wanted them to stop fighting, you know. And but yeah, that was
some terrible overacting. But like, anyway,
yeah, but that was good, and it brought Theo and Olivia together.
Or Shirley.
Oh, Shirley.
Yeah,
it brought Theo and Shirley together. So, but yeah, I thought that was pretty good one.
Yeah. So I do. Okay. So before we get into my big thing that I wanted to talk about. I think I have two more big areas that I wanted to touch on, but I did want to mention, while we're talking about all the things that they changed in the series unnecessarily. So one of my favorite bits in the novel is the cup of stars.
Yes.
So Eleanor stops to eat on her way out to Hill House, and there's a family there, and there's a little girl who is drinking her milk. She wants her cup of stars. I guess that's her normal cup. And, her parents are like, no, come on, you can have your cup of stars at home. Just settle down, just drink milk.
Yeah, I think they explained the cup of stars. There's like stars all around the bottom, so when she drinks the milk, she can see the stars.
And Eleanor goes to her and says to the little girl, insist upon your cup of stars. Like, don't let people take the thing away from you that makes you you.
Exactly.
And there's another reference to Eleanor has her own cup of stars later, And I always liked it. I thought it was poignant. It was a nice moment. The cup of stars in the series becomes just this cup at Hill House. It was just another trinket that ties the kids to Hill House because we like parallel story constructions, I guess. I guess that's it.
Yeah.
But then, we do see that Nell later has her own mug with stars on it or whatever. And it was like, okay. But again, it's like all the meaning, the thing is still there. The surface level thing is still there, but all the meaning has been stripped from it.
Yeah.
That bothers me. If you're going to take a special moment like that, understand why it was special. I'm not saying you have to do exactly what she did, but understand why that was a special moment, why that was an important moment, and do something similar to it. Don't just make it, it's the trinket, just like the bowler hat and the gloves and the things that didn't exist before.
Yeah.
Yep. You're centering your story around this person, so this should be something more special than just, I saw this cup and it was cute.
Yeah.
Now I've gotten that out of my system. I did want to mention that. And I talked about how he's taking these kind of tropes and he's kind of moving backwards with them. Mm. But what he's specifically doing is, I said, I think I thought about this, I think after the second time I watched the series, I think I really started to come to grips with the fact, was like, he did not adapt The Haunting of Hill House. He remade The Shining. Stephen King adapted The Haunting of Hill House and called it The Shining. And I was like, I started looking at it, I'm like, it's too much. There is too much. This is to the point, it's like, you can make something and say, well, you were influenced by this or that or the other thing. Completely believable, and I think a lot of times you watch stuff and you're like, well, that person was clearly influenced by this director or that movie or what, and it's fine, and like, yeah, I know I've seen that before. Like, this is past that. We have the backwards writing. Okay, which, like, yeah, that fits into the time thing, but it also looks like red rum.
Yeah, it does.
We have Poppy, who is kind of just in Olivia's ear, much the way that Grady was in Jack's ear.
Yes.
We have the maze.
Yes.
We have the weird angles. Now this is interesting because the maze and the angles were from the Kubrick version. They were not in the King version.
They were not.
But it was important in the Kubrick version. He kept a lot of times he would reverse shots just for the simple fact that and the layout of the hotel did not actually make any sense when you break it down. And part of that was to keep the viewer kind of disoriented and on edge. It's an effective technique, you know.
Yes.
I don't know how much of that Kubrick. I don't know what Kubrick's inspiration for it was. It wasn't like his own idea, but it's a reference here that we're seeing, you know, with the maze and everything. The bootleggers, like this whole idea of the history of the house with the bootleggers and the flappers and all that. That is like the journal that Jack finds and the paper clippings and stuff that he finds in the basement of the Overlook, you know.
Yeah.
We have the Dudleys. What are they? But are they Dick? They're Dick Halloran, you know.
Yeah.
Again, you know, like Poppy. It was like Poppy. I was like, that's a lot like Grace. She's also a lot because she starts out as like this kind of, you know, good-looking young flapper, and then she kind of transforms into this rotten old thing. I'm like, old lady in room 237. You know, the 237 as the turning point in the narrative is the same beat here with the mirror and everything.
Yeah, and I mean, as I sit, I'm looking at a picture of The Shining.
Yes.
The picture that they show at the end of the movie from the party.
Yes, we're out there on the ballroom.
And right next to Jack is a woman.
There's a flapper. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
and
Poppy.
it looks just like her.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of weird because there's even parallels you didn't make when you were watching it, that it's something you might look at 1,000 times in a couple of hours, pops out at you, and it's like, oh,
wait a minute.
yeah, he got that from them too,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, and things moving in the house, because things tend to move in the hotel. And the way that, you know, Danny would go up and down the halls and stuff,
Yeah.
and the halls seemed to like, he thought he had a pattern,
Yeah.
but all of a sudden the pattern was mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
There, you know, that house, they seemed to have a pattern, but every time they tried to go the same way, it was messed up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's
many,
many things that he took from The Shining.
And I think it's interesting because he takes from the King novel, but he takes also from the movie, the Kubrick movie. And one of the things I think is kind of it visually plays explicitly like the Kubrick movie, but I can see where he pulled it from the book as well.
Yeah.
Is at the end. There's the final sequence where Hugh in the series, Hugh is scrambling to get out of the house. He's getting the kids together, and he goes back for Stephen. Funnily enough, is the last one he's got to get out of the house.
Yep.
And as he's getting out of the house, you know, Hugh, who has been fine this whole time, he hasn't been seeing anything. He's just been kind of doing his thing, he's having problems with the house, but he's not having any weird experiences like everybody else.
Yeah.
But out this last night, after Olivia kills herself, and he is taking Stephen out of the house, and all of a sudden there's fucking ghosts everywhere. Every corner he turns, there is a ghost. He's running through a gauntlet of ghosts to get out of the house.
And he's telling Stephen, don't look.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, just like Wendy at the end when she's running around the hotel looking for Danny. And every time she turns a corner, it's another set of ghosts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, all right, you know, I love the Shine. Like, I love the Shine. I'm not going to complain, but let's be honest about what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And in this one, I don't know. I think because I had not read The Haunting of Hill House in many, many years. And so I think this is why this one didn't pop out at me until I was rereading it for the podcast. But in The Haunting of Hill House, and I think they talk about it in at least one of the adaptations, we talk about rocks. Eleanor, there's an incident when Eleanor was a kid, and rocks started falling on her in her neighborhood, like out of the sky.
Around their house.
It
was after their father died.
Right. It was after their father died. And, so this was part of what drew Dr. Montague to her, because he had kind of investigated to find people that, like Theo was kind of a sensitive and stuff like that. So he was trying to gather people that had some inexplicable things around them that would make them more interesting to see in the context of a supposedly haunted house, you know?
Yeah.
And so we get this backstory of these rocks falling around Eleanor's house when she was a child after her father died, which this is not in The Shining, and I don't believe that he mentions it in the Flanagan series, but it is in the book Carrie by Stephen King. This exact same thing happens to Carrie White when she is a child. Rocks fall on her house. Look, like I said, these things are, you know, and I'm sure these are not the first rocks in literary history. Like, these things are tropes for a reason. These things get used in different ways. But you need to be honest about what is happening here.
There's another one, too, that I don't know if you would see it as a parallel. It kind of hits me as a parallel when you talk about all the things he pulled. Mm-hmm. But with Danny being... with him having... what do they call it? With him having The Shining, mm-hmm. it almost relates to Theo having her, because they say when she touches something, she can feel all the emotion, and that's why she wears gloves. And it kind of, it kind of hit me as the same thing Danny had with The Shining, because it's certain things that set him off, it's certain things that set Theo off. And so I think he pulled that too, maybe.
Because I don't think in the book, I don't think Theo it wasn't like a touching thing. It was just, she was kind of sensitive.
Just in the, she was sensitive. No, her mom gives her, no, that's not in the movie.
That's in the series.
In the series.
Yeah, her mom gives her the gloves.
But yeah, I mean, it's just in the series. You can see that she's, in the movies, it kind of seems like there's something there. But in the series, you can really see it.
You can definitely see it. You know, speaking of The Shining, though, you know, if you look at Hugh and Olivia, they're just Jack and Wendy flipped. Gender flipped.
Yes.
You know, like I said. But yeah, that is right. That I think that's Danny and Leo with the shine, and I think that's the part. If you're going to tell this big sprawling story in the series, it's fine, but it's like at this point it's like I don't know what story you're telling anymore. Yeah. And it's strange because, like I said, if I'm taking the series on its own terms, I like it a lot. It's as soon as it calls itself Hill House, then I'm like, then you start looking closer and you're like, okay, no, you know, I'm going to watch it again. Look, there's still, like, plenty, like I said, I love those 3 episodes. There's plenty of scenes in that series I love, and I always love, and, like, you know, not feeling like you can just fool people into believing. I mean, that doesn't change anything about the quality itself. Yeah. It's not The Haunting of Hill House, and I think this really comes up in the end. This last episode of the series, both adaptations of the movie they're faithful to different degrees. The first movie, the 1963 movie, is completely faithful. Yes. Except it makes it clear that Eleanor died in the car crash. Shirley Jackson doesn't come out and say it, but we just kind of assume that that's what happened. Yeah. And the 1963 movie is like, yeah, she definitely died in the car crash. Yeah. In the 1999 movie, she dies at the gates trying to get out. Yeah. And it seems less intentional in the 1999 movie. Like like that was not, she didn't mean it. Yeah. That's not how this ends at all. That's not how the series ends at all. The series, I mean, obviously Nell kills herself pretty early, but it's not, like I said, the motivations are different and everything. It's not the same. In the end, though, we get, I mean, as far as a happy ending can go, where everybody fucking dies, but like, it's a happy ending because we are led to believe that everybody got out of the house safely, except for Hugh, who sacrificed himself for his children. Yes, to be with his wife. And to be with his wife, but to be with his wife to save his children. Yeah. I mean, it was, you know, this is not, obviously has nothing to do with the actions of Hugh Crane in the original book. He would not do this type of thing. You know? He would kill himself in the house to control everybody. But that was about it. And you get, so everybody else gets out, Luke recovers, everybody gets on with their life. I know originally I had heard that Flanagan was going to have the window in the room requirement in the background of all these scenes flashing forward to the kids going on with their lives, so the implication would be that they never actually did get out of the room. I would have liked that a lot better. I think that would have been a lot more in the spirit of Shirley Jackson's book. That, like, no, they're there now. They're part of the house now. Their tragic flaws, their weaknesses, that's ultimately what tied them to the house forever.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that. We got a happy ending. We got the Dudleys, of all people, coming back. I mean, look.
Her daughter died in that house, so she knows her daughter's there.
Her daughter's there. So I guess she miscarried in the house, too, so there's a baby there. So her husband, she's dying, so her husband makes sure he gets her to the house, and she dies there. And it's all very touching, It's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Everybody's happy. This is... Again, we've lost the point. I guess, do you want a happy ending? Does it matter? I mean, I don't think every ending has to be bleak. Yeah. I'm not one of those. But I do think that there was... Shirley Jackson was saying something.
Yeah.
She was saying something about Eleanor. She was saying something about the way that people overcome or choose not to overcome, choose to be swallowed by their flaws.
Yeah.
And we don't get that here. We get where everything worked out because one person who's been getting kicked the whole time, everybody's been pissed off at him the whole time, he pulls it out at the end. I mean, Hugh.
No.
Hugh kills himself to save his kids.
To save his kids.
Like again, on its face, it's fine, but it's what are we doing? And, I do. There's something interesting here about, I think, this very last line that every version treats differently, except for Jan de Bont, who doesn't even say it. Like, I don't care. I'm almost like, that's like, I don't even know. Just Eleanor died and everybody walked away. And Mr. Dudley, like, well, did you find what you were looking for? And they're like, they just 1,000-yard stare and walk right by him.
Yeah.
It's wild. But, so in the book it says, what walked in Hill House, will walk, because they go through this whole thing about doors shut sensibly and upper, and then at the end of the book it says, what walked there, walked alone. Right? And at that point in the book, we know that's Eleanor is walking there alone. That's the whole point, right? She's alone.
Yeah.
And in the movie, the 63 movie, the last line is, we who walked there walked alone. Not whatever walked there. We who walked there walked alone. So you get this thing like, oh, Eleanor's not the only person there, but everybody's like alone together, like,
yeah.
It's like just a bunch of people, just ghosts or whatever, just kind of walking around past each other, because it's like they're all there, which mirrors Eleanor's time in Hill House before she died. Mm-hmm. But she's just there with a bunch of people, but she wasn't really with them.
Yeah. And I think too, it's important to say here, because I had never read the book before now. But Jean continued to hammer into me that the first paragraph was the most important and best thing ever written.
Well, okay. I mean, I think I think there's a lot of, it's a great paragraph. It's well written and yeah. And I think as far as like opening paragraphs for a horror novel goes, it's clearly one of the best ever written.
That's what I was gonna say. Is even if you don't read the book, even if you just go and watch the movies or just go watch the miniseries, you can at least look up the first paragraph of that book, and I'm sure you can pull it up on Google.
Yeah.
It is a terrific paragraph to start a book. I've never, I read a lot, but it was a very good paragraph, and it kind of just sets you up for it.
It does, it does want an opening. I think, like, nowadays, a lot of times, you got to get the reader's attention, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, but what else you got to do is you got to set the stage. Like,
yes,
what am I walking into? And that's what that paragraph does.
Yeah.
And I mean, aside from, like, the technical beauty of it, but, like, just as far as, like, it sets you up the atmosphere of what you're going into.
Yes, it does.
But I do want to talk now on the series. So these other two, so the book and the 63 movie, they're kind of in the same idea. I think the 63 movie is implying that the ghosts were real. It wasn't all just Eleanor's mind spinning out or whatever, you know, which, you know, I don't know if it's ever clear in the book if we're supposed to believe that it was Eleanor spinning out or if there was an actual haunting going on there. I don't know that it matters, though. That's what I think. Like, it doesn't matter. It's what matters is that Eleanor believed that she belonged there.
Yes.
You know. But in the series, they changed this last line completely. And it says, those who walk there in Hill House, those who walk there walk together. Wait a minute. Okay. Let's look at examine what we're saying there. Okay. With the Dudleys, that's great. There's that whole family's reunited. Awesome. Good for them. Now, on the other hand, we have a mother who lost her mind, who manipulated her children through visions to come back, one of them to kill themselves in the house so that she would have company. And then, you know, wouldn't let the other ones go unless her husband killed himself to be with her forever. Well, that's not very... Who wants to walk together with that? Aside from that, Poppy, is she a terrible bitch or not? Are we supposed to like her or not?
Oh, yeah, she tries to kiss you.
I mean, why?
And Olivia's like, he's mine.
He's okay. This is also dumb. Well, whatever. Walk there, walk together. Oh, so all the terrible bitches are walking together in Hill House. Is that it? And poor Nell and Hugh are over there like, all right, honey, just stay off the fucking radar. Maybe she'll forget about us. You know?
Oh, I know they ruined your line.
But again, it's just, you know, it's one of these things, like you step back, it's a painting. It's like an impressionistic painting, you know, you step back and, oh, it's like this beautiful field of flowers, and you get closer, and it's like all these little dots. But it's one of those things, like, if I'm just watching it to watch it, and I just watch it on its own terms, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's like, once you think too hard, you're like, just commit to something and stay consistent. I understand you wanted a happy ending. I wish you had the balls to do the original ending, but you didn't. So you got your happy ending. But now you expect us to believe that it is a happy ending because we got the music and, oh, those who walk there walk together. But you want us to believe that poor Nell and Hugh being stuck in eternity in this fucking house with Poppy and fucking Olivia. You want us to believe that that's a happy ending? That is not a happy ending. That's terrible. And like the first time I had to watch the end a couple times because there's this part, the part where Hugh goes into the room with Nell and Olivia at the end because they made their deal. Like, if I die and go to the room, you let the rest of the kids go, you know. And so Hugh walks into the room and the door is closing. And I swear there is a split second. Olivia looks like, aha, I got what I want. But fuck it, Nell has this look on her face. I swear to God, every time I'm like, am I seeing that or am I crazy? She looks terrified. She's like, I don't know. I'm not
sure. I didn't like the way. I didn't like that he had to sacrifice himself to save his own children.
I mean, especially because they were so nasty to him. But like, I didn't mind that too much. But I did mind the implication that was a happy ending. That's not a happy ending.
So I think we all know how Jean feels about this. Yeah, I mean, the series definitely could have stood alone.
It could have stood alone. Yeah, it could. It did not, you know, and
it didn't need to be part of that.
Oh, and insofar as much as I have a problem with the series as its own thing, it's just because he just wanted to do too much. He was just doing too much. It's not really like there was a couple things that were not well done. I think the whole fried egg Luke is in rehab and somebody at an NA meeting is telling the story about some over in Iraq or Afghanistan, and somebody got set on fire and their eyes were coming out like fried eggs. I'm like, this is okay. Stephen King wrote that line. That is, I don't know that. Like, I'm not saying he did for a fact. I'm saying like that is a Stephen King line there. But also, I'm like, man, the effects on that were so bad. It looks so bad. But I'm just like, you know what Shirley Jackson did? She did one thing. She said, I'm going to put these people into this maybe or maybe not haunted house. It's a house with a bad reputation. One of those people is going to be mentally unstable. And what's going to happen then? Then she tells us what's going to happen.
Yeah.
This is what happens. Okay? And they were at the 63 movie. That's what. Then Jan de Bont said, okay, what if I took this really well-known story and just put a lot of visual effects on it that don't make any sense, that don't add anything to it. But in 1999, they're going to look cool. And in 2025, people are going to be like, what the fuck is this? And Catherine Zeta-Jones is just going to be hot. That's it. We don't need anything else, right? Like, that's it. That's a multi-million-dollar idea right there. And then my Flanagan said, like, I'm just going to look. Hey, I can do freaky ghosts, and I can do look. Here's a weird timeline, and I can do. Oh, look, here's a long monologue about clockmakers. Look, here's Annabeth Gish looking all old and shriveled up on the floor. I mean, like, what? What's happened? It was too much. It was, if you take the core of the series,
Mm-hmm.
It's great. And I to the point, when I watch it now, I'm like, I'm not even looking for shit in the background. I am paying attention to the characters interacting and that part of the story.
Yeah.
And I just ignore the parts that I think are just Poppy. I'm just, okay, Poppy's not there. She doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Now, Poppy being there doesn't make everything else worse, but it just makes Poppy be unnecessary. That's all. I still like the series. Like, I'm not going to say I'm not going to pretend I don't like the series. Of course I like it. But I'm going to say it has a lot of problems as on its own, and it has a lot of problems as it has much bigger problems as an adaptation of The Haunting of Hill House. I don't think it ultimately advances the legacy of The Haunting of Hill House.
No. I think Mike Flanagan could have made that stand on its own.
Yes, absolutely.
But maybe he was just scared too.
I don't know if he's scared too. I think it's easy though. I think once you said, "Oh, I can lean on my Stephen King connection. I can lean on this well-known property, intellectual property that well respected. I can kind of lean heavy on that. I mean, I understand where it's why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And that's fine if but from the perspective of having art that is going to really say something and is going to be important in a deep way. Like, I mean, arguably, there's plenty of movies, especially like from the 80s, where you say, well, that's important because it did this and that. I'm like, it is, but it doesn't mean it was good.
Yeah.
Or you can have movies that are important like I said, in a deep, meaningful way. Like you can, the original Black Christmas or, the Night of the Living Dead. I mean, like that's always going to stand up. And it's not that there weren't zombies before. It's not, and none of it was like special or original, but it stood on its own and it pushed things forward.
Yes.
That's not what happened here. And that's fine. Not everything has to, but people have to be honest about what's going on.
Yeah.
This was not that was not an adaptation of Hill House. The 1963 adaptation of Hill House stands to me as the best one. If we're looking at things as an adaptation of The Haunting of Hill House, it does.
Yeah.
The book is a classic for a reason.
Yeah, I agree.
So I would say, here is my thing. I'd say if you have never read The Haunting of Hill House, it's a quick read.
They have it on YouTube. It can be read to you.
You can. They've got it on audiobook. Maybe I will drop the link to the audiobook that you listen to in the show notes because it's a great reading of it. I think it's really good.
Yeah.
See, read The Haunting of Hill House. If you haven't seen the 63 movie, watch it by all means. I mean, it's great, and maybe it's good that they didn't have a lot of special effects and stuff because then they had to kind of get creative. And I think a lot of stuff, I'm not going to naysay special effects. I love well done special effects, but I think sometimes the limitations are their mother of creativity.
Yes.
The only one that I would say, look, go ahead and watch it, but be in a happy place, in a good mood, and understand when you go watch the John DeBont version. Just be like, this is going to be a fun Saturday night. This is just going to be, have this on the background at a party, and everybody can laugh when Owen Wilson's head comes off.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. But the Flanagan series, absolutely watch it. And if you love it, more power to you. I love it too. But
just not as
right. It's not in the spirit of The Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah.
I would like somebody though, maybe even Flanagan, if he doesn't feel like he's got a kitchen sink it again, just give us a good modern backstory for Hill House.
Yes.
Like, why did it get like that? How was it? Whatever. Give us a good backstory. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
How about you, Ricky? What's your order of recommendation for things?
I like the first one because it does follow the book. The book is great. You should totally read the book. The first one is the closest following, and it's pretty good. I think I like the second adaptation too. Just
because Catherine Zeta-Jones is
well, because Owen Wilson's head just flies off too. That's great. But the original is more close to the book. Like she said, the second making of it just has a lot of special effects that don't really add much to it. But I definitely think that you should see the series by Flanagan, but don't read the book and then watch the series thinking it's gonna be the same, because it's not. It's not anything like the book. It's not anything like the movies. It's totally different. It's that story kind of, but it should not have been put in the same version as Shirley Jones's book. Jackson's book.
You said Jones.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
It should not be put in the same realm with her book, because it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not.
It stands by itself and shouldn't have even had anything Hill House in it. But it did, and it worked. It brought people to watch it.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to go, like, if that series made people go read the book, if that series makes people go watch the original, the 63 adaptation, more power to it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not like the book at all, but it's a good show. It really is. But if you're looking just for the movie and stuff, totally read the book and totally watch the first movie, because the first movie follows it the closest.
Yeah. And man, Russ Tamblyn in his prime, what a cool dude, man! Like, just what a cool guy. Like, just if you're a jet, you're a jet. I mean, like, he's just always. I don't know. I love Russ Tamblyn. He's just He's just always got that smirk. Like, even now though, like, you see him like when he was at, like, he's Dr. Jacoby obviously in Twin Peaks, but and he plays Dr. Montague in the Flanagan series. He's always got that kind of like just that vague little smirk on his face.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, that was The Haunting of Hill House. Yeah, go do yourself a favor and get go make a day of just lock yourself in a room with all the Hill House stuff. But anyway, I think what are we doing next? I think Jawbreaker. So,
and the Three Mothers.
Right. So we're going to take a kind of a little mental break from the darkness and talk about a Jawbreaker, which is one of these movies that I think never ever got the props it deserved. It never got the acclaim it deserved. So we're gonna talk about Jawbreaker, and then we're gonna get back on the horse.
Dark again.
Yes, we're gonna get dark again with the Dario Argento's Three Mothers trilogy, Suspiria, both versions, Inferno, and The Mother of Tears. I tell you up front, Vicky loves Suspiria. She loves the original version of Suspiria. She loves it. It's her favorite movie.
I'm just kind of wondering why I have to watch these, and if she should do that podcast by herself, because I'm not a fan at all of the Three Mothers. I've seen 2 of the 3.
Which 2 of the 3?
I saw Suspiria, which totally freaked me and creeped me out and told you I did not get.
You're not supposed to get.
And then I saw Mother of Tears, which just didn't make sense either.
Okay, we're gonna talk. Okay, it's gonna be. I have to.
It's gonna be a rough podcast.
You're gonna like Inferno. It's you liked the new Suspiria though.
I mean, it was okay. Those just aren't my style.
Okay. Anyway, we're gonna talk about the Three Mothers.
Yeah, we are.
And then after that. I think we're going into Halloween.
October, which is Halloween. We're gonna do some.
We're gonna do Trick or Treat, and we're gonna do a couple other. I think we're gonna do House of Salad. We're gonna get the October schedule up on the website, which I've been having some issues with, but we're gonna get it done. And
November's Thanksgiving.
So we're going to do The Witch and Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I like Thanksgiving, and then December.
December is going to be very fun. We're going to take a look at all 3 Black Christmas movies.
Yay! Back fat.
We love back fat cookies.
Please just know we're talking about that's a line from the movie. I swear I'm not feeding my family back fat cookies. Yeah. But yeah, that's one of the favorite Christmas movies. And since we're doing that trilogy, we might add in a comedy Christmas.
We might add in a comedy. We'll see. We might. Well, we're not going to do Krampus this year. We're going to do Krampus. I think we might do next year. We might do the month of Krampus. But yeah, we're probably going to add in like a comedy, a Christmas comedy. But not sure yet. We'll see how we feel. But
I'm not sure. I don't know if we've really nailed down January.
We haven't. But we will be working on that, and as soon as we have January stuff up, we'll get it all up. So, yep. All right, that was it.
And if you like dark stuff, go check out our other podcast about Dexter. Too.
Yes. If you are a fan of Dexter, we have our other podcast is called Deconstructing the Dark Passenger. And so far we have covered Dexter Original Sin. We've covered season 1 of the original series, and right now we are going over Resurrection, and we are loving it. So yes, if you're a Dexter fan, please
join us.
We'll put the link into the show notes again for Deconstructing the Dark Passenger. We got plenty to go on that, man. Dexter got 8 seasons plus. So, anyway, anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, so follow us on our socials. Email us if you have an issue. If
you want to fight with her about Flanagan,
if you want to fight with me about Flanagan, like I said, I was defending Flanagan when Flanagan wasn't cool. So, you can come at me, but I'm not. I don't hate the guy or anything. I think part of my frustration is that I feel like there's another filmmaker in there somewhere, and I'm waiting for that guy to come back out. So anyway, that was it. We will see you next week, I guess. Yeah, next week for with Jawbreaker. A little on the light side. And until then, see you
later.
Later.